more than anything, baby girl. She says, you have 5 seconds to answer the door or I'm breaking a window. Or, and he says, Kenzie, I'm next door. She says, 5, 4, 3, 2. She says, I threw the 5 guys out the window in your flower beds. So that went from 6:32 p.m. to 10:36. At 10:36, she says, I threw the 5 guys out the windows in your flower beds. Why is she so terrible to him? She got the felony she wanted, right, Rochelle? Wow. Did she get dropped on her head as a baby? Dude. Wasting fries from 5 guys is a felony in Ohio. Her toxicity is escalating. I feel like I'm wondering how many times she, like, physically put her hands on him. Okay, let's continue. She says, I threw the 5 guys out the window in your flower beds. He says, why? What the F? You're capping. She says, no, I'm not. Why is this confusing? He says, where is it? She said, it's literally right by your front door. Just throw it away. He says, is it? She said, by the plant by your deck. He said, oh, my back door. She said, you see it? She said, dude, Logan is being so effing stupid. Dom says, just don't sell it to him then. Kenzie says, like mother effers rushing me to get home. And then I tell him I'm home. And then he just doesn't answer when I told him I'm going to bed. She says, now you don't get your backwood and weed, RETARD. She says, and I've been smoking the same bowl pack for like 4 days. Dom says, you probably geeked AF. I'm going to come over in a second. She says, no, I literally just hit my bong. Will probably hit me in a second. She says, dude, look, Logan replied for real. Dom says, he replied in time just to get him the bud. Kenzie says, okay. She says, oh my effing God. I'm about to freak the F out. I effing close tomorrow, so we can't go to Cedar Point. So I'm about to try to call off. He says, yeah, for real. She says, Logan got pulled over. He says, damn, is he good? She says, the cops is effing out. Dom says, what? Kenzie said, they're getting everyone. Dom says, damn, they was probably being R-word. RETARDED. Dom says, is Duncan busy? I might get a coffee the next morning at 9:04 a.m., 10:23. She says, hella. He says, I won't even bother then. LOL. She says, I can bring you stuff. He says, when do you get off? She says, 12. She said, but Libby is being in RETARD. He says, if you want, grab me a cappuccino. She says, what do you get it? He says, vanilla. I'm getting in the shower. If I don't text back, that's why. She says, got it. She says, WTF? How long are you going to take in the shower? Because will you be ready to go to, I don't know what that is. Go to the Amish? She says, Dom. He says, let's save Amish for another day. I have a couple cells I need to hit. She said, I'm going with my grandma. He said, oh, okay, that works. Where is it at anyways? She said, your cappuccino's in my room. He said, you still home or did you leave? She said, I'm about to leave. Layman's. We're taking the no highway way. It's in Kidron, Ohio. He says, what's your ETA? At 1:46 p.m. He says, I don't know if I'll make it out that far. She says, oh, he says, I'll see because I'm waiting on people. She says, of course, Danny is being weird AF. She said, come. He says, I can't. I have 100 play, then another 100 play. She said, K. He said, Danny is always weird. Kenzie says, I guess we can't go to Cedar Point then. He said, "Why is that?" She says, "Because everybody's taking long as F to literally do anything, and we're definitely not going to be on the way home by 6, and we're far away, so, yeah, if you don't come, we're not going. You should come get me." Dom says, "I still have to run places. When would you want me to come?" She says, "I mean, you're just gonna need to keep running places because that's what it seems like is gonna happen." Dom says, "I'm supposed to be on the way to someone, but they didn't answer, so Imma get some other people while I'm waiting." Kenzie says, "So are you not coming?" He says, "It's only 3:30. When is your family planning on coming back?" Kenzie says, "I don't know. We literally spent like an hour in the cooking section. This is literally a furniture store. Like WTF." Dom says, "WTF? I'd be salty, yeah." Kenzie says, "I'm about to freak out." Oh, thanks, Rebecca. Layman, is that right? How I'm saying it? Layman Hardware has off-grid Amish products? Oh, huh. I love Cedar Point. I hate that she likes it there. She ruins everything. I know, I'm with you, Natasha. I just don't understand what he was getting from her in this relationship at this point. Oh. Mm. I was only thinking that because she was always causing an issue for Dom not to go with her and her friends. Yeah. Yeah, things have changed. Okay. She says, "I'm for real about to freak out." He says, "What did y'all even come to do?" She says, "Like, I'm so mad." He says, "I don't even know. I thought." Kenzie says, "I don't even know. I thought it was a cute small shop place. Like we were we were like we could go to a restaurant and we at this shitty place. I'm not even eating. So it would be nice if you came and got me." He says, "Just ask them to leave at 5. Just tell them you need to leave by 5." She says, "I told them, but they're definitely not gonna be able to do that." Dom says, "Well, if I left, not I'd get there a little before 5 and I still gotta run somewhere. So I just pray they come through." Kenzie says, "They definitely will not come through. They never do." Dom says, "Can you make them?" She says, "They are not listening. Like, I will F someone up." Apparently, fast pass lines are our waits. We should go as soon as we get home and be there early as F. He says, "So how long is the line without a fast pass? Like 2 hours?" WTF. She says, "Dude, yeah, it's packed apparently at 4:46 PM." She said, "That's what my mom is saying." Dom says, "Is it open tomorrow or anytime this week?" Kenzie says, "I did not just rush them for us to not go. I will freak the F out, like dead ass." He says, "No, we can go, LMAO. We can go twice if we don't get everything to because it's open Thursday." She said, "I'm so mad. Like OMG." He says, "Are y'all on the way back yet?" She says, "Yeah." Danny literally just started um Danny literally just started I don't flailing around and saying, "OMG, OMG, loud AF," just to show the sky what a effing weirdo. Like, she doesn't know when it's okay to talk. She literally is autistic. Hopefully, she gets tested soon. Dom says, "For what? Autism?" Kenzie says, "Yes." Like, she just be interrupting. Like, shut your slow ass up. Like, I thought she would grow out of it by now. Freshman year is when I stopped being effing weird. Dom says if she was autistic, she could get a check from the government, probably. Kenzie says, now I'm stuck in the car with 3 idiots and my grandma." She says, "True." Dom says, "Try to sleep or something." She says, "Dude, I'm so mad. They're not sleeping. There's no sleeping. That B Maddie saying the cart is not working. What did you give her? Dom says, Yeska. Kenzie says, well, she's saying it's not working. Dom said, we'll switch it another time. Kenzie says, you tell her that. Dom says, I got you. What's your ETA back? She says, 5:39. He says, bet. We'll get there early AF. She said, okay, good. And then at 5:17, she says, WTF, answer now. The RETARD just interrupted me and got away with it. Who is she talking about? Is she talking about her sister? Hey, Debbie. Um, I'm thoroughly convinced, yeah, she's evil. Yeah, Danny's her sister. Okay, who updated their name? Yeah, Danny is her sister. Okay, she says, Dom says, you want to invite Kyle and Kristen? She says, where? He says, to Cedar Point. Kenzie says, if they can be ready. I'm in Medina, but yes. Dom says, they probably won't be, but it'd be cool if they did. She says, more people, the better. Kenzie says, ask them. Dom says, I asked Kyle. She says, I'm home. He says, pick me up. LOL, so funny. She says, what's funny? Dom says, how you just talk to me like that. Kenzie says, I haven't effing ate all day and I was stuck an hour away with annoying people for over 2 hours. I'm effing mad. Dom says, let me know when you're here. She says, okay. She says, bring a pen at 6:01. He says, I am. She said, on the way. And then it goes to the next day on 10:24. He says, well, it's midnight. He says, not what I meant, but okay. Kenzie says, what did you mean then? He says, I literally just meant okay. Then she sends a screenshot. And at 7:33, she says, why didn't you come? Dom says, because I was ready to fall asleep as soon as I sat down. He said, Chick-fil-A is salty. Chick-fil-A is closed. I'm salty. I'm dyslexic. He said, Kenzie said the Brunswick one. She says, you gotta go there. I told you I were coming. Dom said it's Sunday. Kenzie says, bruh, F Chick-fil-A. Dom says, right? He says, stupid ass church. Kenzie says, now Alexa is asking if Maddie can come to the party. Like, what the F? He says, Maddie Bean, just tell her to have Maddie ask me. Kenzie says, yes. Dom says, then I'll say no, WTF, or she won't even text me. Kenzie says, like, WTF. Dude, I'll literally say that because I'm stressed out dealing with this stuff. Didn't the mother treat the other sister bad too? Where is the sister? Like, has she ever came out and said anything about Kenzie and like what happened? I feel like she's never come out and spoke. Someone should check on her. I'm concerned. Yeah, this is October 2021. Yeah, unhinged. Is Danny older or younger? I think older. I might be wrong. Someone might know better than I. Okay. Um, she says, like, WTF, dude, I'll literally say that because I'm so stressed out dealing with this. Dom says, yeah, you just asked me. Bet Maddie won't even ask me. She says, for real though? He says, and I'll make sure to have at least me and Jared there so we can throw people the F out. Kenzie says, Alexa is saying Maddie is saying to have me ask her to have me ask for her. Like the F. She says, wanna do pumpkins? He said, just say no. He said, say you have to have Maddie ask me, because she's not going to. Tyler would be pissed if Maddie texted me too. Kenzie says they aren't together. Dom says, oh, for real? We're still not letting her come. Kenzie says, yeah, I'm pretty sure he scammed her some shit and then they broke up. Like, she literally did what you did. Why would we let her inside of your house? Danny's enjoying being the only child. Oh, someone said she's younger. Okay. The sister did a TikTok with a friend about a month ago. Really? Younger. Okay, everyone said she's younger. Okay, okay. Sorry, my bad. She's younger. Um, okay, Kenzie says, like, she literally did what you did. Why would we let her inside of your house? Dom said, bro, what a dumbass. Yeah, I never let her around anywhere. Kenzie says, Etsy links. She says, babe, can you buy me this? I will pay you back when I get my paycheck. I'm going to ask my mom too. He says, yeah, I'll give you cash. Just go deposit it. She says, I did it myself. He says, what do you mean you did it yourself? Can you switch Maddie's cart for me? I'll give you another one. She says, ugh, yes. He said, bet. Gee, good looks. He says, want to do a sale for me at 7:30 p.m. He said, they girls. Kenzie says, I just woke up. Dom says, it's fine. Kenzie says, literally, Danielle was outside effing swinging with loud music right now and just woke me up. I know somebody's literally pounding something downstairs. She says, for your Halloween costume, you need a white shirt, a leather jacket that says T-Birds on it, and blue jeans. Never mind, black jeans. He says, okay, bet. That's easy. Leather jacket that says T-Bird or a white shirt that says it. She said, leather jacket. You could probably get it at the Halloween store, though. He says, yeah, let's look. Did you find yours? She said, yeah, of course. My mom ordered something that was not going to fit me, though. Don't know why she effing ordered it. She says, are you coming to eat here? Dom says, did your mom cook? Kenzie said, she made pork. Dom says, let me see. Kenzie said, we should go to the Halloween store tomorrow or tonight if it's open. The one in Brunswick is the best. Dom says, bet. Let's go tomorrow. I'm in my pajamas and shit. Kenzie says, well, we're eating now, so if you want, then come. She says, we could go to Spirit and Walmart tonight for costume shit to see if we can find anything right now. Dom says, I don't think we'll find anything at Walmart. We could go to Spirit, though. Oh, I have to sneeze. Hold on. Okay, thank you. Thank you, CTV. Funny how she's clinging to mama on the prison phone calls. I know. She's annoying as hell. Dom says, I don't think we'll find anything at Walmart. We could do Spirit, though. He said, Spirit is closed. She said, babe, at 8:58 p.m. She said, are the bottoms of this bikini at your house? I need it. And she sends a picture of a green bikini. He says, I can look. He says, when do you need it by? She says, tomorrow for school. He says, why do you need a bikini for school? He says, I don't know where to look. I'll check my laundry. She says, can't you just answer the effing question? I have the top I need. I need the bottom. So now you can find them if they're at your house. He says, I don't think they're here. I can look, but I just look at your house. She says, are you sure it's not at your house? I just went through my whole room. Also, we should probably return the Fendi leggings before it's too late. Dom says, it's been months since summer. I've cleaned a lot out. I did a lot of laundry. I feel like I would have seen it. I put your shit to the side when I do find it. Kenzie says, dude, I'm so effed. I'm so mad. Dom says, why are you effed? You don't have other bikinis? She said, I want that bikini for the underwear part. He says, "Oh, you need green underwear for what? An outfit?" She says, "Why does it matter what I effing need it for? Like, what the F?" Yes, obviously I need it for an outfit. I'm not just gonna wear an effing bikini to high school. He says, "It's just your underwear though." She said, "What the F is happening? Like, are you okay?" He says, "I think you need to ask yourself that." Kenzie says, "I think you need to rephrase that message or we're gonna have an issue." He says, "I'm fine. I'll let you know if I find the pants." She says, "They are not pants." He says, "The underwear." She says, "Are you going to sleep over or no?" He says, "I can." She says, "Do you want to?" He says, "Yeah, but I'm already tired." She says, "Literally, we just looked through my whole entire house and still can't find it. I'm so confused." She said, "Did you open my effing window and leave it open for like 4 days? Like the one right by my bed? Because I never open that window, especially at the top." Dom says, "I don't know. Last time I opened the window, I was smoking that blunt when you did Emily's nails. That's the last time I remember." Kenzie says, "Bruh, it's been open for that long. You cannot do that. There's a shit ton of bugs in my room." Dom says, "No way I did that." She says, "And now I'm grossed out." He says, "Was the blinds down?" She says, "Dom, I literally never opened that window." "No." He says, "'Cause the blinds were not down when I did it." She said, "The blinds are down on my other window though." She said, oh my effing God." Dom says, "How did you not notice it's open with the blinds open too?" Kenzie says, "Because it's only a little tiny creak at the effing top. How was I supposed to know? I don't open that window ever." Dom says, "I'll make sure it's closed." Yeah, I don't know what happened then. She says, "Just close them next time. Thanks, babe." He emphasizes his message. He says, on the 25th at 1, well, midnight, "Bruh, my whole basement just flooded." Kenzie says, "WTF, are you okay?" Question mark, question mark. She says, "I'm coming over tomorrow." There's also 24-hour plumbers. Dom says, "My phone died. I had my mom text the plumber. They're gonna come in the morning. Maybe I should call a 24-hour one though." Kenzie says, "My dad said there's 24-hour plumbers and they have sub pumps at Walmart for like $70. Dom says, "Walmart isn't open." Kenzie says, "I meant Home Depot." And then she says, "Is it anywhere by the pool table and the couch, or is that room okay? Because that's where all the nice stuff is." He said, "That room is okay right now, thank God. Whole rest of the basement is F though. Any chance y'all have a sub pump?" Kenzie says, "Our sub pump broke a couple years ago. I think you can text my dad if he wants. He would know better than I will, but I'm gonna go to bed, baby. I love you. You will figure this out tomorrow." He says, "I don't have his number. Text him mine and say if he has a sub pump or anything to let me know. Love you, baby." He says, "We just got done cleaning all of this water. If it's raining anytime tomorrow, you gotta let me know because I'm about to sleep. And if it starts raining, I'm gonna have to start pumping this water again." She says, "I'm up at 6:27 a.m. She says, "You should probably call the city and figure out why it keeps getting water in your basement because it's just going to keep raining for the next couple of days." And then it goes to 2:47 PM. She says, "I need 6 Gs." He says, "I got you. I'm home." It was sanitary line. She says, "Well, now I need something to eat." Dom says, "I got Chick-fil-A. You want nuggets?" She said, "For you, you didn't get me anything?" He said, "And fries." She said, "Or ask me if I wanted anything?" "You got that for you." Dom says, "I just got hella shit. Do you want them?" Dom Kenzie says, Are you still kind of like ask me if I wanted something? I don't know why you didn't even ask me at all. Like, I don't even know why. Especially knowing that I get out of school at like 2:20 and you still didn't ask me if I wanted anything." Dom says, "What is the topic? I have nuggets and fries here for you." She says, "You did not give me food or drink or anything I want from Chick-fil-A. That's why it's a topic because maybe you brought up Chick-fil-A." He says, "I have a large lemonade. We can share. I got you food and a drink." She said, "That's going to be gone in 2 seconds. You do not get me food. Why are you lying?" You got yourself food. You did not ask me anything. I did not tell you any food I wanted, only if you just asked like a normal person. Like, you would think you just asked me because I'm struggling to eat. Dom says, I didn't, but I got nuggets and a large fry in case. I know. I know. She's so annoying. Hey, Bet. My stomach's. Dude, she is just, remember, you guys, she doesn't like him at this point. So she's just making anything to fight. She demanded expensive restaurants. I don't know. Why is everything's Dom responsibility? She's like, you didn't bring me food when I have stomach issues. Like, that sucks that this is how he was being treated. Like, shortly before he died. This is October 2021. He says, okay, so I got the large fries. He says, please don't stress me out about shit right now. I've literally been cleaning water all day, off 3 hours of sleep and no food. Kenzie says, send me a picture of the food. She says, I never get any sleep. I will bring the fans over when I eat. He says, why do you want to pick? He sends a pic. I don't know what that is. He says, come and eat and bring the fans. She said, "K." She said, "Coming." He says, "How did it go at 8:20 PM?" And then it jumps to the 26th, and she says, at 7:14 AM, she says, "Are you good?" He says, "I'm locked out. I don't know who locked it." She says, "WTF?" He says, "Right?" He says, "I got in. They so lucky." Kenzie said, "Is Kyle okay? And what happened?" Dom says, "Now I'm just cleaning this water again, though. He never hit me back." Kenzie says, "There's more?" OMG. He says, "Yeah, I'm mopping now." She said, "Bro, WTF? Where's it coming from? Why did the plumber not fix it?" Dom said, "No, it's not. Still coming. There's just still a little leftover water. Tiles are dripping water." She says, "Oh, WTF?" He says, "Carpet tiles." He, Kenzie says, fry they were dry yesterday, though." Dom said, "That was the tops. Bottoms were still wet. It's not like they're dripping, it's more moisture. You want to help steam clean them, though, when the time comes?" She said, "Oh, damn. Yes, I got you." She said, "We have a steamer, I'm pretty sure, like a carpet cleaner." He said, "Yeah, we need both." She said, "We need to make sure the basement is ready for the party." He says, "If I didn't do all of that the other day, it would not be ready." She says, "Bruh, after the party, we should like deep clean the basement." He says, "After doing all of this, I'm cool on that." She said, "Why?" She said, "Do you know any LA plugs?" Dom says, "No, they ain't got any serve whoever's asking." Who's asking? Kenzie says, "Emma Alvia moved to Cali, Los Angeles." Dom said, "That's wild." Kenzie says, "I'm jealous AF. I'm so jealous." Dom says, "I wonder where she moved." Dom says, "I wonder where she moved." Kenzie said, "Los Angeles. I sold all the carts." Dom says, "Bet," at 8:52 PM. Kenzie says, "Add Skylar back." Dom says, "I got you." And then she says, "Parma," at 11:15 AM on this 27th. Dom says, "She didn't add me." He says, "Me and Jared might go get $1 pumpkins to shoot. If there's any good ones, I keep 2 for us to carve." Kenzie says, "I'm good." Dom says, "Yeah, it's already the 27th anyway." She said, "Let's do it. In Parma, there's a cute little pumpkin place by Party City. We should go there." Dom said, "I thought you didn't want to. Now you do." "Yeah, I've been seeing hella places with pumpkins." Kenzie says, "No, I do. I didn't mean to say I'm good." I didn't mean to say I'm good. Dom says, oh, okay, bet. He says, okay, I'll probably be down to go to Lucas. Let me at least try and flow on this beat real quick. I probably won't even shower. He says that at 2:40 p.m. But you def gotta help me around the house if you want to have this party. Kenzie says, also Maple side is open. Dom says, because we have one day to get the towels dried if you want to have the party. Kenzie says, I'm going to. I just work tomorrow. Dom says, we need them dry today. Kenzie said, at 6, though. Dom says, then we need to pine-sol the floor and clean the carpets. Kenzie says, let me know when you're ready. I'll come get you. She says, do you want me to pick you up? Dom says, yeah, give me 15 minutes. Kenzie says, bring pod. Dom says, Lucas doesn't serve dinner till 5, remember? Kenzie says, bruh, I need a cart. A new box then. Dom says, okay. He says, you still want to go at 5? She says, we'll leave at 4:30. He says, okay, bet. I'm going to try and cook this music real quick. And then at 8:48 p.m., she says, I'm tired, really tired. He says, I'll be home in 10. She said, I'm so tired. He said, well, what do you want to do? Because I need to get something done to have this party. Kenzie says, babe, I don't know. I'm so tired, but I really just want to help you. Dom says, well, at least let me know. I can't do it on my own. Kenzie says, I know. I don't know what to do. I just got really exhausted out of nowhere. He says, we kind of need to carpet clean the towels because those towels have to drive. We can carpet clean the towels Thursday and have dried by Friday. There's a typo there. Kenzie says, I fell asleep. Babe, I will come tomorrow and do anything before work. She said, like, I'm so tired. Dom says, we won't be able to have the party for real at 9:13 p.m. We'd be lucky to have it Saturday at this rate. She says, are you serious? So you really just expected me to effing work down there by myself tonight? Huh? Is that what you wanted? Question mark, question mark. More question marks, more question marks, and more question marks. And then she said, like WTF? He says, what? She says, red? He says, no, I'm just letting you know. I was going to help you. Kenzie says, no, we literally we can just effing not put the tiles back. It's really not that hard. Oh, you're going to help me clean the floor? That's so nice. Dom says, LOL, you're the one that needs to have the party. Kenzie says, like, you're really making this harder than it is. Why the F do we have to put the tiles back? He says, I'm not having people down there with all that going on. You haven't helped at all besides move tiles. Don't say that it isn't hard. Kenzie says, you really expected me to clean your whole effing basement alone? LMAO. With quote unquote help? N-word, you had me come over at 7 o'clock at night. The F you talking about? And it's 9:15 p.m. He says, nah, I expected you to do something. Kenzie says, and then effing took a 2-hour shit and then had to go so weird. So that's your problem. Dom said, okay, LOL. She says, are you trying to have issues? Question mark. He says, no. All I was saying. Kenzie says, like, for real, you have like 5 seconds to change your attitude. Dom says, if I don't, we won't do nothing. It's not going to be ready. That's all. Kenzie said, it's effing ready. You don't need to clean the F out of those tiles. They're just going to get nasty again. Just put them back down when they're dry. She said, as long as there's no water in there, wipe down, they should be good. Or you could just keep them in the room and then we can clean them after the party. Dom says, we have to wipe down all the backs with pine sol and the floor, then let them air dry. The very minimum. Kenzie says, you said we had to effing wash the tiles with the carpet cleaner. Dom says, nah, we can pine sol the minimum. The carpet cleans the tops, but they still have to dry, babe. Kenzie says, okay, cool, then we can do that tomorrow. Or you could just start wiping them down now. He says, LOL. She said, what's effing funny? She says, And are you trying to have problems? Like, you better stop with your effing replies. Like, we will have issues if you reply RETARDED one more time. So do you want to reply again? I'll give you a chance to fix that. He says, yeah, nah, you can fix how you talk to me. She said, so you're saying we're about to have issues, is what you're saying? Question mark, question mark. He says, don't threaten me. She said, it's not a effing threat, it's a fact. So fix it or it's true. Dom says, that's not making sense. Yeah, I know. Mallory's like, I hate her. The Tiffany says the control problem she has in her brain is inhumane. I don't get it. I don't get it. She really just must really want that money in the tree because I don't see why she's with him when she treats him like this. Why is she so ungrateful? I don't know. Killa, where have you been, Killa Swag? Dom says that's not making sense. Kenzie says maybe you're finally getting the joke of me going in your basement alone cleaning. That's the only thing I could think that's funny. So effing fix your reply or we will have issues. Dom says just drop it. Kenzie says just fix the reply or I deadass will not effing talk to you. Like pick and choose your battles. Effing fix it now. Like you're seriously going to F up and you have another regret added to your long list. So effing fix it. Dom says, why the F do you talk to me like that? Kenzie says, maybe if you talk to me nicely, I will talk to you nicely. Dom says, tell me the reply. I'll fix it. Kenzie says, are you that effing stupid? Oh my God, effing just grow up and stop being so lazy. Like, oh my God, I can't do this shit. Like, I went down there and helped you move those tiles in 90-degree heat. And then you were the one, oh wait, it jumped to the 27th. I forgot to tell you guys that. Um, it jumped to the 27th. When she said, maybe if you talk nicely. Oh, before that. She said, so effing fix it. That's at 9:21 p.m. She said, maybe if you just talk nicely, I will talk to you nicely. He says, tell me the reply, I'll fix it. She says, are you effing stupid? Oh my God, just effing grow up and stop being so lazy. Like, oh my God, I can't do this shit. I went down to help you move those tiles at 90-degree heat, and you were the one who decided to effing stop and go sell tree. I would still effing be there cleaning if you just effing stayed. Two, but you effing left. So that's your effing problem. No, fix your effing reply now. She says now. He said, yeah, I would have went earlier, but I dropped my schedule to go to Lucas with you. She says, you had like 3 hours before we went to Lucas. You had time. You just chose to sit in your studio. And I'm still not seeing a fixed reply. Dom says, yeah, dude wanted at 5. Kenzie said, where's that new reply? Dom says, just stop arguing with me. Look, I'm not going to bust ass to get it done alone because I'm not going to be able to get it done. So if you help, I'll bust ass. But if not, I don't think it's going to get done because if we pine sol all day tomorrow, it's going to need to dry all day Friday. He says, then we gotta play Jenga to get the tiles back. Kenzie says, why can't you just have Blair help you tonight? Like I'm going through so much effing shit. Dom says, not Jenga, a puzzle. She says, plus this party is effing falling apart and you're expecting me to effing do everything. No, effing fix the effing reply. She says, you better never text me LOL again. She says, it's not going to need to effing dry all day. So why are you acting like water is going to soak through the whole effing carpet if we just wipe them down? Like you're literally being dumb. Dom says, and if we don't get them back in, it's gonna get messy at the party, then we'll probably have to mop again. Kenzie says, who gives an F? I would rather them up after the party both times. Like, goddamn, this is so dumb. You make things so effing hard for no reason. Dom says, Kenzie, these towels have been drying since Monday morning. That's 2 days, and they're still not done. Kenzie says, "Okay, and you're just effing wiping them down. They're not going to be soaking wet." She says, "God effing damn. Do you get it that time?" Question mark, question mark. He says, "They're still gonna take a bit to dry." She says, "If you just wipe the back of the towel, it will dry very fast if you wipe it with a towel after." Holy shit, I feel so bad for you. Hopefully you will understand one day. Dom says, "Cool, don't talk to me." She says, "Cool, not sure why you're acting like this. This is," she said, "Cool, not sure why you're acting like this is an effing mission when it's the easiest thing in the world. Acting like I give a single F. You're the one telling me you were just going to help me clean your effing basement. Like, no, I was going to help you, buddy." Dom says, "Easy to say that when all you've done is feel tiles if they're wet." "Yeah, I said it wrong. So what?" Kenzie says, "Okay, good. You better have said it wrong." Dom says, "I'm not going to keep arguing about this. If you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say it to me. Cause for real, all my shit could have been ruined, and my whole basement could be moldy, and the drywall could have soaked up. And I feel like all you care about is having the party." Kenzie says, "How many effing times have I told you we should have just deep cleaned the basement after the party?" Dom says, "We wouldn't even be able to go in there if I didn't bust ass." Kenzie says, "Like you're the one who said you don't want to deep clean it. You want to do it before for no reason. You can't even effing expect that I'm tired. My body effing hurts, and you would rather me be downstairs effing cleaning for you. Like, I'm sorry I'm 85 pounds and my back hurts after standing up for like an hour. Like, F off. Like, honestly, I don't give an F." This is the horrible person he spent his last Halloween with. "Hossein, are you finally off work?" She keeps testing him to see if he'll say the right thing, but it doesn't matter what he says. "Hey, Midnight. Most people who demand respect aren't respectable. That's why I never listen to people who demand it," says First Liberties. Okay, let me get a drink of water. Okay. I have a feeling that this is the time period when she goes to his house with, "There's going to be a problem if you don't." Yeah. I have that video of that call under the videos tab too, if you guys wanna watch it again. The gods let her live to go live a horrible life now, it's karma. Okay, she says, "Like, I honestly don't give an F." Dom says, "The basement reeks, that's why I wanna clean it. I don't care if you come or not. All I was trying to say earlier." Kenzie says, "No, it actually does not reek at all. It only smells bad in that run room because you just took a shit in the room above it." Dom said, "It's probably not gonna be done if we don't do anything." She said, "One, then start doing something like, oh my effing God, why is this on me? Like, you have 1 million people over there that can help you. Your dad can help you. You can literally just wipe down the backs of the effing towels. It's not that hard. Swear to God, get your priorities straight. Maybe if we just stayed and cleaned it, it would be done by now." Dom says, "Yeah, I don't see you doing it." "See, so how are you gonna expect anyone else to do it?" "But yeah, sure, let me see who wants to. My dad will not tonight. He'll do it tomorrow." Kenzie says, "Oh my effing God. If we don't have this party on Friday, I'm seriously going to freak the F out. I'm telling you now." She says, "Your basement is capable of having it. You're just being effing weird about it. Like, you need to have the carpet on the effing tile some reason." She says, like, "Honestly, don't even need to wipe them down with the effing pine Sol." He says, "I can't have all these people here with my basement effed. Look, done talking." There was a typo. She said, "No, you effing have me stressed out like what the F is wrong with you?" He says, "Yes, and we do need Pine Sol." He said, "For bacteria." She says, "We better have this party Friday." Like, of course, you have to go to Parma and just take 8 years. Like, if you actually wanna get shit done, you would have. She says, "I was effing there ready to help you, then you just went and sold tree for no reason to some little crackhead." Dom says, "Sorry, I just had to make 500 real quick, that's all." Kenzie said, "Is that really all you got from those all those messages? If so, that's literally depressing." Dom says, "I should have just not done it. It was only 500." Kenzie says, "I don't know why the F I have to tell you to stop replying to me, RETARDE. Like, it literally makes me wanna effing end the relationship. You better fix the reply again. Like, we're just gonna keep going in a effing circle until you learn." Dom says, "Okay, so look, stop the circle. Let's just stop texting. Boom, problem solved." Kenzie says, "If you reply to me, RETARDED, one more time, we're done." No, because you're going to just not do shit and then blame not being able to have the party on me, then ruin my effing Halloween. The party is completely capable of happening, and it would work completely fine. You're the only one being effing worried about it. Like, if I effing come over, there's gonna be problems. Reply now," she says, and it's 9:42 PM. She says, "5, 4, 3." He said, "Stop texting me." She said, "The F?" He said, "It's been an hour. I don't know if it's worth starting now. Are you sure? Because I don't wanna be just fighting." She says, "I swear to God, are you deaf? You better be in the car, driving." He says, "Okay, I'm coming." "Here," he says at 10:01 PM. I feel like at this point, he must be scared of her, right? She's too stoned to help him. She's so vile. She's all of them, Rochelle. I'm ready for Dom to go off on her. I know. Hey, Amy, truth. I think at this point, Dom stayed with her because it was easier than breaking up with her and having her stalk him even more. I feel like he knew that either way, she was crazy. And I feel like, hey, just Pepper, I feel like deep down inside, he knew that she was going to do something crazy. 5 live agos, I would have said Dom was the abusive one and she was just obsessed with him. Now I feel totally different. Yeah, I said that yesterday. I was like, okay, it's a whole different perspective after having gotten through this last year. The roles totally reversed and flipped. It's been really insane. There are no words to even describe her. She's right where she belongs, truly. He says, "You took," so now it jumps to the 28th. She says, Dom says, "You took at 6:30, or no, oh, 2:43 in the morning." He says, "You took home the veal and the sasheti." She said, "Bruh, why the F did you leave that in my car?" Dom says, "I thought I took both in. I swore that I did." Kenzie says, "You took in the party supplies." Dom said, "Bruh, I'm dumb." Kenzie said, "WTF," at 11:09. He said, "What?" He says, "I don't have booms. If they do, 2 years old, I bet they don't even work. Matching these tiles is effing hell." She said, "Nice reply." She said, "Bruh, have B help you." And then she says at 7:05, "Decorate a little." Dom says, "He's been gone." Kenzie said, "Blake's trying to come to the party, like WTF." Dom said, "Blake who? Who is he asking?" Kenzie said, "Duncan and me." Dom said, "Just don't answer him." Kenzie said, "I said I'll see, and now I'm not going to answer." Dom said, "LOL." Yeah. Oh. And then he says, "Answer snap." He says, "Do you think I should shave?" Sorry, my shoe just came off. And she said, "Follow everybody that my account got banned was follow." What was following? Let me start over. Follow everybody that my account got banned was following. Oh, so one of our accounts got banned. He said, "I got you," at 8:27 p.m. She said, "Let me know when." He said, "I got you." She said, "Did it?" Dom says, No, not yet. Trying to sit there and follow 3K people, but I will, or you can do it." She said, "Bruh, it's 3K. It's only 300. I'm talking about the people I was following, not following me." He said, "Oh." He said, "Okay, my bad." She said, "Let me know." She said, "Is the poll up on the 29th at 11:54 a.m.?" He said, "No, I gotta carpet clean the spot before I put it there." He sends a screenshot. She says, "I don't care. What do you want?" Okay, so it jumped. She says, "I don't care" at 10:29 at 7:26 p.m. And then it jumps to the 30th. And she says, "What do you want?" Bruh. He says, "Cappuccino. What do you want to do tonight? How did your lash appointment go too?" She said, "Lulia lashes," and Paul spilled his drink. Dom said, "What? Let me know when you're going to be here watching a movie with my dad right now." She said, "Want to watch a movie? Rocky Horror?" He said, "Yeah, of course." She said, "Okay, I'll come over now." He said, "Wait 5 minutes. This movie is about to be over." And that was at 6:03. And then she says, "I'm here" at 6:07 on the 30th. And then it goes to the 31st. And Dom says, "How is work, baby?" At 12:05 p.m. She said, "On the way home." He said, "Bet I'm still here." She said, "Yay." And then she said, "WTF? Why the F did you do that? Like, do you actually want an issue with our relationship? Question mark, question mark. Like, where did this effing stubbornness come from?" And Dom says, "I should have moved the pipe." Kenzie says, "I didn't have mother effing shoes on. Like, F you." Dom says, "You could have got out." Kenzie said, "What the F is wrong with you?" Dom says, "All you had to do was cut the wheel." Kenzie said, "I was just wearing socks. No, we have issues." Dom said, "You had a lot of space." Kenzie says, "Have fun cleaning up." Dom said, "You beeped the horn in my ear." Kenzie said, "NIGGA." Dom says, and okay, then we just won't have another party." Kenzie said, "You were walking away, so I beeped. Like you didn't hear me yelling to pick up the pipe." He says, "Yeah, but you had room to cut it. I said you did." Kenzie says, "Or you could have moved the pipe." Dom says, "You told me to move it. Said you have room, just cut it." Kenzie says, "You were outside your car with your shoes on." Like dumbass NIGGA, we have issues. He says, "Then you started beeping, so I just didn't move." Kenzie says, like, "I don't even know if I want to go trick or treating with you." Dom says, "All you have to do was cut it though." Kenzie says, "Are you being stubborn then too?" Dom says, "Look, just lay down and relax and we'll talk later. I was walking away and you had plenty of room. You weren't going to hit it, so I just kept going. I said you had room too." Kenzie says, "No, we have issues." Dom says, "Okay, sit on it." Kenzie says, like, "No, we actually have effing shit. I'm so effing pissed." Dom says, "Don't make decisions when you're mad. Just go relax." Kenzie says, "If this conversation does not go right, we will break up." She should just break up with him. Like, why does she keep threatening him and manipulating him? I worry he was trying to wait her out, hoping she would find someone else to torture. I don't. I don't think she was ever gonna leave Dom alone. I think she was literally just out to get him at this point. She's such a toddler. He's so patient. I would have caught a case for real, says little Nancy. See how Dom always remains calm these days and she pushes his buttons. Yeah, it was like in 2020, it was Dom that was like basically being, like she was the one being like, "Oh, pay attention to me, pay attention to me." And now it's like the other way around. He's like the one that's going through it now. How does he put up with her? I don't understand. I know. Issue after issue. She is the total predator. She says, if this conversation does not go right, we will break up. I'm so effing done. She says, I don't care if I threaten breaking up. This is how I effing feel. Dom says, maybe we should just break up then. Kenzie says, me, the fact that you were trying to get me to get you head or something. Like, how are you going to make out with me and put my hand on your DICK and then not pick up a pipe when I ask? Like WTF. Wait, what? So he was like, the fact that you were trying to get me to get you head or something. Like, how are you going to ask me to make out with you? Like, WTF. Are you 6? Dom says, Kenzie, you had so much room. That's my bad. Kenzie says, you wonder why we don't F. So yeah, exactly, Patty. So they don't even have sex. Well, that's understandable because I wouldn't want to have sex with someone like her anyways. You know what I mean? Like how abusive she is. I thought they only cuddle. Yeah, apparently they do only cuddle. What the helly? What Mallory's like, what the F is she talking about? Hey, Juicer, good to see you. It's been a while. Okay, she says, you wonder why we don't F. She says, like, nah, you just made me so mad. Like, WTF. What the F? Question mark, question mark. Dom says, Kenzie, you had hella room. Kenzie said, all you had to do was pick up the pipe. Dom says, I should have picked up the pipe though. Kenzie said, okay, bet. He said, I admitted that first text. She said, I'm gonna just run over the pipe next time. Good shit. I don't get it. Before we even started arguing, says Dom. And he sends a screenshot. He says, I didn't know you were mad for a sec. I thought you were effing with me beeping. She says, if you knew, then why didn't you move the F in public? I'm done texting you. Don't effing text me. She says, you were really just the top of my morning shift. Thank you so much. Dom says, well, after you were super mad and moved it, realized. Just go home and sleep, babe. I know agitated, but just go relax. So Kenzie says, you better effing fix this. Have fun cleaning up the pipe in my dirty socks. Dom says, how else you want me to fix this? I said I was sorry and said I should have moved the pipe. She says, I don't even know. You've been stubborn for like 4 days. Maybe you can just stop being stubborn. Dom says, okay, I'll stop being stubborn. I didn't notice. Maybe I had a reason. Kenzie said, my mom really needs that money for the chicken minis. Remember, we are poor now. Dom says, send her Cash App or Zelle, or I'll give her cash later. That reminds me, let me take back leggings while we can. Kenzie sends a screenshot. She says, "You can go do that. I need to lay down." He says, "I don't have Venmo." She says, "Okay, well, then you're giving her cash because that's what she has." Dom said, "Okay." And I'm not going out there today. I have like $1,500 to make. She said, "It was Q. Can you throw up in a cup and spilled it? He's not coming back." It's 1:40 p.m. Dom says, "LOL, he lied." Bet, post that. Be like, "Sorry, why the F did you lie?" Kenzie says, "Texting him right now." Dom says, "Let me know what he says. Save it all." Kenzie sends a screenshot of the text. I don't get what they're talking about. Dom says, "Who is saying that?" Kenzie said, "Phil." Phil was like the only one who knew how to handle Phil was like the sorry, I was yawning. Phil was like the only one who knew how to handle this shit last night. I trust I trust him. I don't get what they're talking about. She says, "Yeah, I don't trust him. He keeps apologizing to me." Dom said, "Yeah, Phil was doing lines with me." What? Wait, when were they doing this? Kenzie said, "He keeps saying, 'I feel so bad they are never allowed back.' I don't know why Maddie brought those RETARDS. I'm so mad at her." Dom says, "I know he can't handle shit." Dom says, "I just pulled a U." They do a lot of typos. I just pulled a U. I straight swerved in front of this BITCH. Kenzie says, "What happened?" He says, "She switched lanes in front of me and was just driving shitty, so I swerved in front of her." Kenzie says, "Grill 55 in Uslid. Grace wants us to go there. It's a football party tonight after the football game. I think we will be able to get in." Dom says, "Why wouldn't we? Is it 21 plus or something?" That's right by Will's house too. Why is there a party there? Kenzie says, "I don't know. It's a football player. Grace just invited me." Dom said, "Why is he throwing it there? I have never been there, but it's 5 minutes from Will's." Kenzie said, "See, never mind. I'm not going because they're not letting dudes in. So let's just not go. We'll find a different party." Dom said, "Ah, okay. Yeah, the dude probably a lineman or something anyways." Kenzie says, "Yeah, like I don't give an F about the Browns players. I would rather do something with you." Dom says, "Aw." She said, "Find a party." He said, "Let me see. Should have went to one last night. I seen hella. Maybe we should just throw another. I'm trying to make a little music though. I got sales." She says, "I'm down. I just posted on my story to see what's up." Dom said, "Okay, post your story. See if people would be down if we threw another." Kenzie said, "Everybody is saying yes." Dom said, "Bet." Kenzie says, "I know, LMAO." Dom says, "I'd kick him from the story. He's gonna be like, damn. But for real, why'd he lie?" Oh, that's what he was saying about the cup? Yeah, I have the messages with Grace too. So we'll have to go through those. That's why I was confused because I don't know who Phil is. Is that just like a random friend or what? He says, "But for real, why lie?" She says, "I did. It was a cup. It's not mine either way. So Q said he'd try and come clean it up even though it's not his. Dom said, trick or treating is 6 to 8. Are we even going? That's disgusting. Um, she said, yes. Then we're gonna go set up in the parties, and we're gonna go set up the parties at 9. He said, okay, well, I'm gonna go shower then. She says, yeah, we're going to go trick or treating. Is Grace with Libby and Grace with Libby and Danny. Dom says, can you help me clean some shit the day before the party? She said, yes. She says, are you home? He says, yeah. She says, because I can come now. Kendra might come trick or treating too. Dom says, okay, bet. She says, can you get that oil from your mom? Dom says, what do you mean? Kenzie said, she put it on my eyes. Dom said, oh, yeah. She says, where you at 6:08 p.m.? She says, hurry. He says, you want to just go smoke with me? I'm kind of in a bad mood anyway. I'm about to smoke or something. She said, WTF? Of course you do this. Sorry, I have a scratch in my throat. Oh my God, I'm like choking. Sorry. I just coughed in your ear. I'm sorry. You're like, she used him for venues for question mark question. I was like literally choking with no hesitation. Okay. I wonder if there were any videos of this party floating around. I bet there was. Dom desperately needs mental health support. She says, of course you do this. Whatever. He said, so come or don't come. Kenzie says, you just said you don't want to come, so effing pick because we're about to leave. Dom says, okay, give me a sec. He says, I shouldn't miss Halloween. Kenzie said, that's what I'm saying. Hurry now. Dom says, I'm looking for the keys on the way. He says, F it, grab my spare. Kenzie said, what's happening with drinks? Dom said, I think liquor stores closed today. Tough luck on the drinks. She says, no way. And then she says, where are you going? He said, weed. She said, they have 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐺 at Shirilla gas station. He says, I don't have fake ID. See if Kyle is coming and if he can. Kenzie says, ask, please. I'm trying to get some. When my mom's here, can you go get the 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐺 and give her $80 for the minis? Dom says, bruh, I have no money over. I don't want to run back again. Kenzie said, bruh, she needs the $80 and she has the alcohol. Just bring it to the house. Dom, stop being stubborn, please, and do it. And then he sends a picture of something. Dom says, my basement 1 week ago on November 1st. Wow, we made it to November. She says, OMG. He says, right? She says, what are you doing? Kenzie says, and you look hot in that. Dom says, hoopin'. You want to do something after I'm done? She says, what? Steak and movie? He says, yeah, steak and movie sounds great. Dom says, getting in another game. I'll text you in a little. Love you. She says, love you, Nug. He says, I just clowned this dude so hard I threw it through his legs. Kenzie said, who? Dom says, I don't know. Some try hard dude. Dom says, can you go get the steaks? Kenzie says, my stomach hurts really bad. Can you just go since you're already out and I'll pick the movie? I was talking about going to the movie theater, but we can do the at-home thing. Your steaks are better anyways. Dom says, oh, okay, I didn't know. Come with. She says, can you just please go down? Really like not okay right now. Like my eyes are effed. And she sends a picture of her eyes. He says, I didn't see it in the dairy section. Go check if it's there. She sends a screenshot. Now it's November 2nd. I think she's always having a reaction because of those damn eyelashes that like She gets all the time. Juicer says this girl is psycho. Yes. I feel bad for his mom seeing this. I feel like Miss Russo will never get over this. I don't know why I feel that way. Um, okay. He says she sends a screenshot. He says, nah, sketch. It's 11:02 at 11:16 a.m. Dom says, ask him for proof. Do not give him email. It's not worth it. Kenzie says, what do I say? Proof on how to do it before I give email. Dom says, ask him whose account he's gotten back. Want to help me get a card for my mom today? I think I already asked you. My cart and battery is missing. She says, stop. Where did you put it? He says, it should have been in one of my little bins in my room. I'll keep looking though. It was like a full cart and it was the OG mod. Kind of feel like Kendra took it, to be honest. She's the only one that would have been close enough around. Kenzie says, WTF. I don't know. I don't think she did. There's no way. Dom says, I don't know. We'll see. Kenzie says, I'll keep an eye out. I'll play dumb. Dom says, bet. She says, what are you doing, babe? Could the pen have been left out on the table during the party? Everybody is in the living room. Dom says, I'm not sure. I'm doing sales. Kenzie said it was 100% in one of the buckets. Dom says, I'm gonna look in my bed and stuff, but I checked the buckets. They didn't have it. My mom is making cream chicken you like. Kenzie says, I'll probably call, but I'm about to eat PB&J. Tom says, it'll be done in just a little bit. Let you know because I know you like it. Kenzie says, after you eat, when you come, bring me some and sleep over. He said, yeah. It's 6:41 p.m. He says, right now I'm gonna try and make some music. At 10:20, he says, oh, it's the next day at 11:03. On 11:03 at 8:18 a.m. He says, what's up, babe? I was sleeping. She said, look at my story. He said, snap her Insta. She said, Jasmine is posting your Addy. Like, what the F? Dom said, let me add this hoe. Show me. And she sends us screenshots. Dom said, who even is that? Kenzie said, she was at the party. Dom said, yeah, but like, who is she? Who is she cool with? Kenzie says, I don't even know. Dom said, who did she come with? Kenzie said, Q and her boyfriend, Mar, Maddie, Phil. What? Dom said, oh, okay. She says, you read the Coco? What do I do? I won't go to Polaris. He says, why won't you go? She said, I don't know what to do. Dom said, what's Jasmine's full name? Kenzie said, like, I gave her my address because I didn't want her to post yours. Kenzie says, I don't effing know. Perez, I think. Dom says, okay, well, just make sure to tell Phil and Q and everybody that if this isn't fixed today, I'm going to do something about it. And they don't want me to do something about it. Kenzie says, bet. She sends a screenshot. Dom says, cool. Tell Q we want her full name. How old is Jasmine? Kenzie says, young than me. Me and Kendra can just whoop her ass. And Phil and Maddie. Dom said, what's her mom's name? Kenzie says, literally, I have a ton of people. I don't know her effing mom's name. Dom says, okay, we'll get it done. You don't want me to get a hold of this BITCH. Okay, so thanks, Juicer, for being here. This girl literally stayed on her phone all day. Yeah, they're talking about this girl, Jasmine. Apparently, they're going to beat her up or something. They probably look like shit, Nico's mummy. He was her age when he was playing her and she was chasing him. Yeah. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. You're fine. Dom says, okay, we'll get it done. You don't want me to get a hold of this BITCH. Kenzie says, "We have Phil Maddie dealing with it right now. We'll see what happens. I don't know what more needs to be done. She hasn't texted me anything, but if I get an address posted, I will literally effing unalive her, like literally." So this Jasmine girl, it was, I guess, doxing Dom's address from something to do with the party, though, I thought. He says, "Yeah, F that B word." Kenzie says, "Yeah, I'm surprised she didn't pull up. I told her my address and told her I leave at 11." Dom says, "Have someone figure out her mom and her dad's name." Kenzie says, "I gave you Kendra's Snapchat." Dom said, "For sure." Kenzie says, Maddie and Phil are doing that. Maddie and Phil are doing that because Maddie used to be friends with her." Dom says, "Okay, tell Maddie I want her address or her mom or her dad's full name." Kenzie sends a screenshot. She says her Addie is at the bottom. Just found it. Question mark, question mark. Dom says, "Bet." Kenzie sends another screenshot and then another one. She says, "That was like 5 minutes ago." Dom says, "Just don't text her or have her link." Kenzie said, "I'm not. I didn't even open that. Mara's texting me though." And then she sends, I think it's an Instagram profile. Yeah, she's sending like screenshots of IG. Dom said, "Probably can't have parties anymore." Kenzie says, "Yeah, for real, unless it's low key AF and only people we literally know." Okay, so Phil and Maddie invited this Jasmine girl over and she did something wrong and now they don't like her and they're gonna bully her. Her friends were prettier than her. Oh, that's the girl that got pushed? Evie said that's the girl that got pushed. That's her? They wanna be gangsters. Is she talking about the younger crowd at the party? I still wanna know if that party took place. Oh, is that Jasmine? I didn't know. Well, apparently someone posted someone's address. Might be because that was at Might be because that party was at Dom's. Oh, okay. Dom says, "I don't even know because my cart went missing." Dom says, "If we don't find that, I don't know if I want anyone over because I low key think it's Kendra." Kenzie said it maybe was. "Look in your room." Kendra's literally saying she's seen the pen inside your bedroom. Go look in there on your dresser. We were in there because we were setting our shit in there and changing. Don't get sketched out. LOL. Kenzie said, "It's the mod one. I only care about the mod, not the cart." She said, "OMG, that one? Bruh, I'm a freak out." Literally every time someone went upstairs, I went up there with them like there's no way. OMG. Dom said, "Yeah, that's the only reason I even care. The cart was full too." Kenzie says, "OMG." Dom said, "So check your house and stuff." She says, "I'm so stressed now. I will." Dom says, "Yeah, like I'll hit a bitch over this. It probably was Kendra, for real." He says, "Yeah, I checked my house. If it ain't at your house or in your car or something, I'd have no doubt that Kendra took it." Kenzie says, "Dude, I really don't think it was her." You text her? Dom said, "Then who else was it?" "Well, now she already knows we think it's her because we'll probably never get it now." Kenzie says, "I don't even know." Dom said, "Hopefully it's just missing." He says, "Kendra took it. Tell her we're running her shit every chance we get if we don't get it back. She better not leave the crib." And then she says, "Olivia needs 11." Kenzie says, "WTF?" 5 question marks. Dom says, "No, I was tripping, but for real, find out where that is." Kenzie says, "Faith just texted me. Jasmine was at the mall." Dom says, "'Cause who was that petty to steal that from?" Kenzie says, "I don't think it was her. You can ask her." Dom says, "Who cares about that? We can't do nothing at the mall. Look at your house, because if not, someone had to stole it I don't really bring it anywhere. We have surprise party for my mom. We're having a surprise party for my mom tomorrow. Kenzie says, okay, when? WTF? I work. I'm upset AF. Dom says, I don't know. Hopefully we'll meet her when she's back from work. Hold on, let me get my shoe. Just my slipper fell off. She was and is a little girl. She was and is a little girl trying to be important. I thought she went down. I don't really know about that. Hmm. Um, he says, I don't know. Hopefully we'll meet her when she's back from work, which probably be like 5. Kenzie says, bruh, I work 6 to 9. She sends a screenshot. He says, I'll ask her when she's going to be home tomorrow. Maybe she switched with someone. Kenzie said, it wasn't her, for real. Kendra is scared of you. Dom says, everyone should be scared of me. Well, then who was it? I want to know. Oof. So one of their friends um stole the cart. He says, I want to know who it was. I don't want to think it's Kendra. Kenzie says, it's not her. She's chill AF, and if she wanted a free cart, she could just do my homework. Dom said, can you look at your house? Do you think we brought it there? Kenzie says, you gotta not just blame her. Dom says, well, if we can't find it, I don't know who else to think. That could have been in my room, possibly too. Hopefully it's just misplaced. If not, someone had to have took it from my room. She says, I'm just telling you literally right now that she would never effing do that. Like she would never effing do that. Dom says, we'll figure it out. Kenzie says, Kendra would never steal a big battery because she needs to be able to hide it. And she would never steal from you. Like, trust me. And she's upset you think it's her because she thought y'all were cool. Dom said, who else am I supposed to think it is? She says, I don't even know. He says, she's the only suspect right now. Kenzie says, you usually find it when you say it's lost. I just know it's going to turn up. He says, hopefully. She says, dot, dot, dot. It wasn't her. He says, hopefully it turns up. Kenzie said, it's not her. Dom says, I don't want to think it's her. Kenzie said, it's not. And then it's the next day at 8:44. She says, 3 years coming up. Really special. She sends a screenshot. He says, I don't even care about Q, F, Jasmine, and bruh, they're afraid of Phil. I love Phil, man. He the GOAT. Kenzie says, LMAO. I know, I love him so much. Kenzie says, Jasmine's phone number. Babe. Dom says, what, babe? She says, I got her number. She's talking mad shit about me. I might have to work her. Dom says, do that. And then sends her a screenshot, Kenzie. Kenzie says, I post you all the time. 5 question marks, 5 more question marks. Dom said, I was just a funny meme. It was just a funny meme Jared sent me, is what he meant. Kenzie says, oh, okay. She says, by the way, this kid Isaac is also talking about shit about the whole situation too on Jasmine's side. I really want to just send the the convo. Dom said, I just ignore them, not say anything, and we'll have someone else smack the F out of her. I'm hungry if you want to get some food. She said, come over right now. I have 10 minis for you. He said, damn, I just ate. She said, WTF? He said, what? He said, I can still come over and chill for a little. She said, because I'm with Kendra. He said, I bet. And then she sends a Google link and a screenshot. She says, weird ass men talking about me on 11/5 at 6:43 a.m. Dom said, WTF? How you even get on their For You page? Kenzie says, just click their account. What the F you mean? Dom says, how did you get on their For You page? Kenzie sends 4 question marks. She said, oh. He said, yeah. She said, I thought you were asking, how do you click their account? He said, not their account. She said, why are you acting like I effing know? The F? Dom says, question mark, question mark, question mark. Kenzie says, you better not be trying to say anything effing weird. Like, what the F is wrong with you? You're not allowed to be insecure. Remember, you're the one who cheated on me multiple times. Here we go with the whole cheating thing again. Thanks, Tiffany, for being here. Um, yeah. Yeah, this is about that girl that got hurt because she went down the steps. Prob her sugar daddy. That's what I was thinking too. Defensive much. Um, Anyways, she said, you're the one who cheated on me. Dom said, what? The F? I'm finna break up with you. Chill. She says, LMAO, you wish. He says, nah, I'm saying, what kind of videos are those weird adults liking? She says, do it then. He says, to be getting your videos on their page. She says, I don't even know. Not my issue. I was just showing you the comment. Shake my effing head. Dom says, I'm just saying that's weird. And I don't know the videos popping up in your shit. That's weird. Must be like hella high school or shit. Looks like you're going to Mickey D's for our anniversary. Kenzie said, we'll just not go. Dom said, all good jokes contain truth. Kenzie says, are you effing okay? Do you actually want to have issues? Dom said, it's a joke. Kenzie says, because I'll just take my ass out to eat because I have my effing money. Okay, well, it wasn't a good joke and you can stop texting me now. He says, you blew up on me first when I wasn't trying to comment on you at all. Chill out, hothead. Because now I'm actually getting to that point. I still don't get where this came from. I'm going to Michigan right now. You want anything? She said, I don't know. Carts make me cough brown spots. Maybe an edible, a gummy. Literally, it was an instant thing. I hit the cart, then I coughed the spots. Dom says, okay, I'll get you gummies. He said, sorry about fighting. She said, love you at 8:07 a.m. She says, I'm scared to try the edibles. He says, say sorry. Take low milligram. Kenzie says, Kendra just pissed me off. I give her bong hits every day for her to complain about $12.50. Like, girl, you get gram bong hits all the time. That's some BS. Dom says, yeah, just tell her she can start paying off her debt with me. The $12.50s will be her first check off. Kenzie says, LMAO. I'm mad though. Dom says, for all the weed you give her and the cart she probably took. Kenzie says, like, I'm just not gonna give her a good hit today, LOL. She def didn't take that. Dom says, just give her some ash. Kenzie says, I will. Dom says, LOL, nice. Kenzie says, but now I get no Starbucks. Low key mad. And I just bought chicken minis for us yesterday. And I paid $25 a reading for both of us. He says, just smack the B. So cheap. She said, nah. What the F? He says, any of my friends pressed about $10, they're not my friends anymore. Kenzie says, then I will have no friends. Dom says, I still have them. I mean, you spend more money on her. She should just spend money back and just know y'all got each other like that. She counting favors and counting your pockets. Kenzie says, yeah, for real. I just realized that. Dom says, can't F with no pocket watching ass people. Kenzie says, I'm gonna just start counting too. He says, yeah, for real. She said, it's Bud. Oh, it's BS. Dom says, cause that broke ass shit like me and Chris was in 4th grade. And even when we'd go to the corner store, no matter what we got, we shared the money and we took turns paying for that shit. Never counted, but we both always got a Gatorade and sunflower seeds. Kenzie says, like, I didn't even want to go here. I need to shit. Now I'm waiting for her food. Like, shake my head. Dom says, she would have you like that even if you didn't pay for shit. I got my peoples like that just because they my peoples. Look how many times I paid for Kyle's food or smoked all my homies out, not because they got me like that, because I got him like that. They ain't got me on shit. I always got them if they need it. Yeah, that shit got me mad. Kenzie says, I am mad. I just wasted 20 minutes. Dom says, yeah, that's some greedy shit. Kenzie says, like, I'm mad. Dom says, just tell her if money's such a problem, why don't you get some of it? I'm sure her parents could help. They live in a $400,000 house. Dude says, Kenzie says, dude, I know. I don't know what to say. It's silent. Dom says, it just be like, yo, so all the chicken minis, I got you. My mom needs money for them. She's broke. Kenzie said, bruh, I don't even know. Dom said, and all of Dom's weed you smoke for free? Yeah, it's all added to a tab. You can start paying it off. Kenzie said, it's been silent for like 15 minutes. Dom said, yeah, I don't know. I'd be mad AF for real. I just wouldn't chill with her for a bit. Kenzie said, yeah, probably what I'm gonna do. Dom said, she's tripping for that one. Like, who else gonna do what you do for her? Kenzie said, like, she's like, my card is declining. Like, why didn't I say anything? Dom says, probably no one. Someone else would be way happier with your friendship than her since she's worried about $12. Whenever someone's pretty ungrateful or cheap, I just think, someone else would appreciate the F out of me. Kenzie says, stop. Dom says, shit have me mad though, for real. Why ain't cool with kids like Ryan Ward and Bernie? Really just some cheap mother effers. Are you effing slow, Kenzie? We get it, you're mad and broke. Hey Ruth. Hey Chuck. Um, she says, Dom says, I ain't cool with Ryan Ward and Bernie, just cheap ass mother effers. Like they cool, but I can't be cool with them. Like they too cheap. Kenzie said, the government is telling my mom that she has to get the vaccine or they're going to take $50 out of her paycheck each month. Dom said, this won't go on for long. People in New York pissed. They're throwing trash in the mayor's yard. I'm gonna make a TikTok and YouTube, just post all the effed shit. Like, reason my couch hasn't came in is Biden has all the ports closed for no reason. Kenzie said, dude, Biden needs to unalive himself. Dom said, or he just needs to say he's sorry. That will make it all better. Kenzie says, do you want to go to Lucas after work? He says, when do you work? Sorry, I was fixing my chair. One sec. Let me fix my chair real quick. Her friends hearing all the BS she talked on them. I know. I hope they're calling her in jail. Like, you said all of that? Oh, sorry. I just got a text message that I had to read. He says, when do you work? She said 4 to 7. He said, yeah. She said, at 7. Dom says, call and make reservations. She said, can you? He says, I'm paying you. She says, I'm on the way home from Polaris right now. What one? He says, okay, fine, I'll call him. Lucas West. She says, what time? She sends question marks. 8. He says, yeah. She says, you need to call at 5 because they are closed. Can you call? I will be at work. Dom says, LOL. I don't think of that. I didn't think of that. I'll call. Kenzie says, I just tried to call them and they didn't answer. He says, okay, I'll call at 5. I tried their online reservation and it didn't work. He says, okay, we're good for 8 at 5:55 p.m. She says, bet. He says, my back is killing me from that drive home. Got some dope edibles though. She says, I'll drive to dinner. He said, bet. She said, I'll be home at 7:05. He said, bet. She said, can you get Rosie pre-rolls? He said, yeah. When? She said, right now. Hit her up. He says, I can't drive. I need to put the sticker on my car. Can we just get her on the way to dinner? Kenzie says, bet. She says, I have 3 cells, LMAO. He says, can we do 2 of mine? I'm making a lot of money. They're really close by. I'll roll Rosie's joints too. Kenzie says, Hope is asking to mailbox the cart, but I don't think she would be the one to not leave money. Like, I'm kind of sketched out to let that happen. Dom, can I just leave it in the mailbox and she will leave money? Or I can go have Danny do it. Dom said, I didn't even know you said this. We was both thinking the same thing. She said, here. He says, can I put one of them things in my lean? What? Oh. So Dom be taking them perks. He's been taking that, drinking that lean. I didn't know that. I think she's mostly thriving in prison. Shame, says Pickles. It's great she's being exposed and the people who created that cruel twit too. Um, he says, can I put one of them things in my lean, babe? She says, disgusting AF. She says, if you want to be single, go for it at 9:44 p.m. Dom says, bruh, I ain't done them in weeks. I can't do it one time and make some music. So blow, but no yerks. Oh, so he wanted to mix his Percocet with his lean, and she's not cool with it, but she's okay with the Coca-Cola. I need to be tranquilized if I were Dom, says Mallory. Napoleon complex. He says, so blow but no yerks. She said, nothing. You don't need nothing. If you do anything, there will be issues. Dom says, I can't sip at all. She sends screenshots. She said, it's Jasmine. Dom send there's blank messages. And then she says, LMAO. Dom says, what a dumb hoe. Can I sip though? For real? Trying to spit fire on this beat. He questions it. And she says, dot, dot, dot. You need to buy the Playboy. Oh, it jumped to the next day. On 11/6 at 8:18. She said, dot, dot, dot. You need to buy the Playboy Cardi tickets right now. We need to go today. Get pit tickets. He said, it's today. Is it vaccine required? Have your mom buy him. I'll pay her. Kenzie says, I don't know because my friend that's going has a vaccine, so it doesn't matter for her. Can you just buy them? Have your own credit card? Why does my mom have to do it? You have to pay her back. She said, it's not today, it's in December. It's less than a month away. Dom says, okay, I don't have a credit card. I have a debit and I'm not spending anything on my bank because I have nothing in there already. And my mom barely has enough credit to stay afloat. She pays for mine and Angelo's car, so she has no room in credit. Kenzie says, should we buy front row mosh pit? He says, where it's at. She says, I don't know, in Canton. He says, I don't think I have been to a venue in Canton, so that's your call. And she sends a Twitter link. More Twitter links. He says, probably took some drugs. They need to pass out water. Kenzie said, no, it was spiritual as F. And he was taking their souls. She says, I'm for real. Dom said, I know, it was just funny. Kenzie said, it's scary. I don't know if we should go to Playboy Cardi. Dom said, why is that? Kenzie said, we have some weird shit like that happen. Well, when Travis Scott was in Houston, but I'm scared. Dom said, that's a whole different rapper. Kenzie says, I feel like Playboy Cardi's more demonic than Travis Scott. Dom says, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Cardi was on some Satan shit too, demonic. Kenzie said, no, he definitely is. Like, we can go. I'm just scared. Dom says, I think it'd be fine. Only reason I wouldn't want to go is the far drive. Kenzie says, do you have the gray zip up Nike jacket? And she sends a picture. She says, but zip it up. He says, yeah. You want it? She said, yes. He said, I got you. She said, are you sleeping over? He says, yeah, I'll sleep over. She says, when? He says, what? She says, when? He says, when do you want me to come? She says, you can come now. He says, okay, I'll let you know when I'm coming. He says, do you get food over there? I need to eat something real quick. She said, what do you think? He said, probably not. You still up? I'm going to drop a sack real quick and be over. He says at 7:52 p.m. She sends question marks. He says, what? She says, okay, just bring the jacket over. You're taking forever. I'm going to bed. Drop my jacket off. He says, oh, okay. She said, yeah, next time, just don't sleep over if you're going to take 2 hours to come. Just drop it off to my mom. I need the jacket for tomorrow, so do it soon. Like, you were supposed to be here at 6. Dom says it was 6:30 and I was trying to get food. I gave the jacket and your edibles to your mom already, and I would have been there at 7:20, but I thought you were going to sleep anyways, so I just waited. I'll give you 5K if you find the hoodie because I didn't even know it existed. She says, NIGGA, I sent you pictures of me wearing the jacket. Sorry for being mean. I found it. It was in a really weird spot. Everyone tell me I should start selling vapes again. I think that means it's time. Dom says, so did I get the right one? And yeah, do it. Kenzie says no. He says, love you. She says, love you, babe. And then he says, oh, the jacket isn't Nike. You told me Nike. Kenzie said, oh. He said, yeah, it's Jordan. No wonder I was confused. Kenzie's sending links to Jordan stuff. She says, what are you doing at 10:05 a.m.? He says, making music. What's up? He says, if you want to make sure you get high, eat 1 or 2 blueberries. Kenzie said, I eat 1 chunk. He said, bet. And then he's sending pictures of her. And then pictures of her and him. He says, these popped up on my home screen today. Kenzie says, we should trip. He says, I'll be down. Kenzie said, my friend is sending a link to Playboy Cardi MASH tickets that are $20, $60. He says, who and how? Kenzie said, she's sending me the link and sends a link for the tickets. Kenzie said, my mom bought the tickets. She said, WTF. WTF. Do you have 5 minutes to answer or we have issues? Like how? 176 you got to give to my mom. Dom said, bet. My bad, I got in the shower. Did you get general admission? She said, yes. Floor. He said, bet. She said, can you bring me some bud? And then she says, WTF at 3:46 p.m. She says, I don't care if it's not okay weed. Dom says, give him like some selling shit, not smoking shit we smoke. Kenzie says, I don't care. I'm smoking Sammy up for her birthday, but I also want weed. Dom says, okay, I'll just give you some shit. Let me know how it is. Kenzie says, okay, never mind, Dom. Can you roll a brown? Can you roll a brown or some shit for Rosie, Nina, and Sammy? Dom says, yeah. I'm sorry. Nova Scotia says it's just crazy letting her act like she's in her 20s. No wonder she's annoying and bratty. He gave her edibles to her mom, so Natalie knew her 17-year-old was doing drugs. Oh, yeah. Kenzie was always smoking in the house when they had that daycare too. Remember we covered that in one of the lives? Like she was always smoking in that house. Okay, he says, yeah, when do they need it? She says right now. She said 3.5 blunt. He said 3.5 and what? A backwood? She said yes. How much? Or 2 G's. Only have 20. Dom said 2 joints. She said I don't care. He said word. She said where you at? Question mark, question mark. He says come through. Kenzie says no. You come. It's 8:11 p.m. And then he says, no, come. She said, no, bruh. She said, now. He says, why? She said, because. He said, that's not a good reason. She said, can you come? He said, I'm rolling these joints right now. She said, bet, come. He said, you come. She said, it's for them. I'm about to go to bed. He says, are they there or they still have to come? Kenzie says, yes, they're here. Come now. I want to sleep. He says, okay, I'll drop him real quick. She said, come in. And how much money did I get from the box? She says, come up. Dom says, I'm ready to come. I'm ready to come over. You up? She says, yeah. He says, okay, let me brush my teeth real quick. Can you make sure the door is unlocked? He said, this is my price sheet this year. He sends a screenshot. She said, no. He said, is the door unlocked? Kenzie says, you do. Okay, he says, "Is the door unlocked at 9:35 p.m. on the 8th?" And then it jumps to the next day and she says, "You do such a great job of coming over on time. Like, should I just stop asking you to effing sleep over?" He says, you you usually just sleeping and the door's locked." Kenzie says, "You never come when I tell you to. You say you're coming, then you don't. Like you just don't come. Just don't sleep anymore. Don't sleep over anymore. That shit's annoying AF." He says, "My bad. I've been doing shit in the couple nights before. It had been easier to sleep at my house. I didn't know it was an on time thing, but okay. I honestly just have been super pressed to come because it was easier sleep over here. I don't gotta drive home and wake up early and lock my house and all that before I come." Kenzie says, "You gotta fight Tyler Proctor." That's her ex. And then Kenzie sends screenshots. She says, Dom. Dom said, what's going on? She said, bro, I don't even know. Tyler's texting Maddie supposedly. Maddie fills Maddie. So you can just help. So you can just whip his ass really quick. Like, just whip his scrawny ass. He's tiny AF. Dom said, so Tyler's trying to fight you? Kenzie said, why is he so effing obsessed with me? Dom said, or who? Kenzie said, no, he's setting me up to get jumped by Jasmine and Maddie. I'm waiting in the bathroom, so if they want to jump me, they can come jump me. Dom said, Maddie who? Bruh, I'm a scump this kid. Kenzie said, Phil's Maddie. So Kenzie thought she was gonna get jumped. Wait, so how is Tyler back in the picture? How is her ex like coming back in the picture right now? Whoa, Dom trying to get to the fight. Did he live close to them, Tyler? Right? That's her ex. Michelle's like, "Please, girl, he was not obsessed with you." Um, yeah, she is a narcissist. Um, I'm not live, heard all of this, girl. Yeah, beyond her ears. Okay. He said, so Phil's Maddie is gonna fight you. I thought y'all were cool. What's Tyler's snap number? Kenzie says, don't have his number. I don't like her. Dom said, is you cool with Phil though? Do you have his snap? Kenzie said, I do have his snap. Dom says, I got Tyler's number. I hit him up. Anything happen? You want me to talk to Maddie? Tyler's just being a B, acting like he ain't got nothing to do with it. Kenzie says, I've been waiting in here the whole time. Just sent him the screenshots I have. Just send him the screenshots I have. Dom said, I sent it to him. You want me to talk to Mar or Maddie? And he sends a screenshot. She said, whose number is that? Dom said, I'm talking to Tyler. Kenzie said, WTF? Dom said, that's what he sent me. She said, why the F are you so slow and dry? Like, so annoying. Please just end the relationship if you're just going to be dry all the time. He says, bro, what? I'm talking to my dad about renting houses. Kenzie says, I called you 7 times. Like, dry. So dry. Dom says, what do you want me to do? Kenzie said, not be dry. He said, yeah, my phone was charging. She said, are you that slow? He said, okay, cool. I won't be dry. Kenzie says, thank God. Dom says, I meant about the situation. Kenzie says, I don't know why it took you this long. She said, who's Gray? And are you fighting Tyler? Because he's been in my business for too long. Like, why is he all up in my business? Dom said, he is being super B word. If something else happens, I will. Kenzie says, I don't give an F if he's being a super B. Who is Gray on that iMessage? Dom says, I think Maddie, and blue is Tyler. She said, what the F? Why the F are they talking about me? Dom sends a screenshot of a message. Kenzie says, you could feel his fear through a message. He better be effing scared. This better be the last time I hear him talking about me. Dom says, yeah, so should I just tell him to make sure I don't hear about him again? Kenzie says, damn, I really be affecting dudes in this way, but still butthurt after 3 years? She said, yes. Dom says, I mean, it's Tyler. I'm not surprised. Do you want me to talk to Mar or Maddie? Kenzie says, Maddie. Dom says, Mar isn't going to start shit either. Kenzie said, Mar is not involved. He said, okay, cool. Send me Maddie's number. Twice. What point do you want me to get across to Maddie? I got her number from Tyler. Kenzie says, I need weed ASAP. You were supposed to bring me some last night when you were supposed to sleep over. He says, dry. She said, how? Swear to God, if you reply like that one more time, we will have issues. He says, come get your bud. I'm going to try to handle your situation and you're not answering my questions. You're tripping if you want your bud. Come grab it. And he sends a screenshot. She says, the F? He says, you want the silver or the gold? She says, on the phone with Julia. I'm recording it. She said, hold on. I don't know what they're talking about. He said, okay, you good? He said, my bad. I ain't seen your call. I was on the phone with a Blair a couple times. Kenzie said, AJ also involved with this shit, like Tyler P and AJ. Dom says, why? What did he do? Kenzie said, I don't know exactly. I know he's involved though. Dom says, I just hit up AJ and he sent me Tyler's number ASAP though. Honestly, should I talk to Kyle? Kenzie says, I need weed right now. Like, I've literally been waiting 3 days. He says, come grab some. She says, I don't know. Bruh, can you bring it? Like, why are you doing this? Do I really have to smoke your dispo weed? He says, okay, I'll bring it when I go get food. She says, I don't like that shit. He said, what shit should I get? She says, N-word, I don't give an F. He says, WTF. She said, like, this is so annoying. He said, why are you talking to me like this? Kenzie says, I asked you for 3 days and 2 nights and you still can't come through. Like, so disappointing. Dom says, no, you didn't. She's been waiting 3 days. I know. It's like boo hoo, 3 days. Um, he says, no, you didn't. She said, if that makes you feel better. He says, okay. She said, I'll just smoke sticky buns. He says, I'll bring you some. Dom says, just don't be tweaking on me for no reason. He says, okay, you can pay me for that then, LOL. She said, no. And I'm not tweaking for no reason. I'm tweaking because you've been stubborn for like 8 weeks. Dom says, nah, WTF. Kenzie says, like, I don't know what the F is wrong with you. You really need to get your shit together. It was supposed to be, it, you were supposed to be gotten together when we were in the shower. Like, you were supposed to bring me tree before Polaris, but you were stubborn about it. Now you're doing it again. Dom says, I just said I would bring you tree. I don't know what's going on with you. Kenzie says, I'm simply just telling you that you've been stubborn as shit for no reason. There's nothing wrong with me. Dom said, you're saying you're gonna bring it when you're on the way to eat, and then you're asking. Kenzie says, you say you're gonna bring it when you're on the way to eat, and then you're asking me to eat like I care, like I've been waiting for tree for 3 days. Dom says, okay, I'm gonna go get Chick-fil-A. You want any? And then at 3:18 p.m., he says, I'm about to come drop the tree off. She said, I want chicken minis. He said, so nothing, because I can't get those. He says, what you got going on? She said, just chilling. I think I'm sick. He says, why? What's wrong, babe? She says, I don't know. I feel sick. My nose. And she says, answer Logan. He says, on what? She said, Snap or anything. Dom says, he never hit me up. He says, I'm sleeping over tonight. Kenzie says, I texted him. Hold on. Dom says, let me know. She says, bring 4Gs when you come over. He said, when do you need it by? Because I'm waiting on Jared and that could be a while. Kenzie said, Logan wants it. Dom said, okay, bet. She said, bring carts too. How much did you want earn? Dom says, I didn't, there's a typo there. She says, oh. He says, give me a sec. She says, getting in bed. And he sends YouTube videos to her. She said, Dom says, Juice WRLD literally made shit like this. Straight ass. I'm a def be a better rapper than him. Kenzie said, that's ass AF. Did you see my text? Dom says, you going to bed? I still got shit to do though, for real. She says, waiting. He says, yeah, about to be home. Then Jared should be here before 8. She says, WTF. He says, I just hit a curb so bad. I'm surprised I didn't pop it. Kenzie said, I'm going to bed for real. He said, what? She said, I'm tired. Dom says, you can go to bed. I'm tired. I'll just come lay with you when I'm done. He says, make sure the door isn't locked. Kenzie says, tell him to go lock the door behind him and have him park his car behind me now that the ground is hard. Dom says, yeah, bet. I'll do it, but you got to pick my nose. What? I think that's supposed to be a joke. She said, you want to come to hell? She said, or can you roll a nice joint? He says, yeah, I got you. He says, I'm waiting on people, so I'll probably just roll up for you. Oh, I'm just looking back on the chats. Thank you, Tia Marie. Says, thank you for all you do, Melly. Hope you're taking care of yourself through all of this. Yes, I am. Thank you. And you're very kind. That's really helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it. Dom died because at the end he didn't come comply with Psycho Mackenzie. Yeah, I agree. He says, I'm waiting on people, so I'll probably just roll up for you. She says, okay, do you want to drop it off at my house? Dom says, you can grab it. She says, never mind then. Don't roll. Dom says, well, do you want it? I'm waiting on Sean right now and I can't drive because my tire is popped. She says, I found my glasses. He said, where? That's great. I knew they couldn't be gone. Kenzie says, I need a box of carts. She said, and 4 Gs. Dom says, bet. When do you need it by? Can you slide? She says, no. Dom says, if not, I can slide in a little. She says, I don't know when. He said, okay, I'll borrow my mom's car in a little. Dom says, my mom got Prestis cookies. Kenzie said, ooh. Dom said, come over later and grab some. I'll come over tomorrow and bring your things, he said on 11/11 at 6:30, or wait, on 11/11 at 4:06 a.m. She said, what? Dom says, when you gonna be at your house, I'll bring the carts. And didn't you want bud? Let me know. She says, I'm going at 10. He said, I can come in 10 minutes. Kenzie says, I don't know if we're going to Starbucks or not, though. Dom says, so when are you going to be home? She sends question marks. She says, where are you? He says, bruh, you didn't tell me if you was going to Starbucks or not. I can leave in 1 minute. He said, that's cool, or you dipping? Do you need bud to just smoke or 4 Gs to sell? She said, I'm here. She said, no, bud. He says, okay, I'll come with the box. She said, actually bring it. He said, okay, give me a sec. I'll be on the way. She says, where did you get your cheap ass Mazda? Dom said, the auction with Will. Kenzie said, my friend wants a car. We need to help her find one. Dom says, who? And what's their budget? He says, cars is effed right now. Kenzie said, cheap ass car that works good. Toyota, I think she went to spell. He said, what's their budget? She said, let me ask. Dom says, I'm guessing they just want the more reliable car, right? Kenzie says, yeah. He said, okay, let me know their budget. I'll look and see what's good. Kenzie said, how much 2 grams? Dom said, $20. She said, 4 gram? Dom says, $40. She says, I work at 6. He says, and what? Kenzie says, I accidentally swiped on somebody's story. I thought it was Juliana, but it was not them. I deleted it. Her car budget is $2,500. Dom says, what do you mean? And bet. She sends a screenshot. More screenshots. Kenzie said, quote unquote, that's not me, but adds me on Snap, LMAO. Dom said his number could have got spoofed. Kenzie said, Alexa effing prank dialed me. Would you get me a bottle of some sort for tonight? I have money. Dom says, my phone died as soon as you ended the call. LOL. Kenzie said, I just seen a big ass white truck. Dom said, what about it? Kenzie said, kind of sketched me out. Dom says, why? Kenzie says, I don't know. He says, we should get a little Christmas tree for my house. Kenzie says, OMG, yes, and we can pick cute little ornaments. Dom said, and we can get little ornaments. Kenzie says, aw. And then she sends an audio message, another audio message. She said, sorry, babe, I was eating chicken minis. Okay, so it jumped to the next day at 9:46 a.m. She said, sorry, babe, I was eating chicken minis. I'm excited. He sends an audio message, an audio message. He says, love you, baby, at 9:48 a.m. And then he says, the amount of trash I just took out of my house I missed trash day and we had so much trash from the parties. Kenzie says, "Did you find alcohol for me?" Dom says, "Oh, Will stop at liquor store with him." She says, "Dom, come at 3:57 p.m." She says, "Grace's boyfriend is here." Dom says, "To where?" He says, "They're gonna leave. Also, got your liquor." She sends a screenshot of something. And then at 6:08, she says, "Do we have an issue? Also, I need tree." When I say tree, you know what she's asking for. He says, "On the phone with Noah." She said, "Bruh, come now." She said, "Your cards." He said, "Okay, one sec." He said, "Okay, so we got a dinner downtown at 7:30, but we got park too." Kenzie says, "Ooh, how nice do I have to dress?" Dom said, "Not like high heels nice, because we're gonna have to walk, but dress fresh." She says, "I wanna wear heels." Dom says, "We're gonna have to walk, babe. Also, we can go early and go to Tower City Mall, but they don't really have any good stores." Kenzie said, "How much 2 ounces?" Dom said, "For who?" Kenzie said, "Both prices, 2 ounces and 1 ounce. This girl, Maya. It's for her mom, LMAO." Dom said, "Okay, just making sure some fat bitch isn't trying to rob you or something." Do they want Zaza or some I got ounces for like 100 to 230, you feel me? Kenzie says, "I'll ask." She's asking for 2 ounces for 160. I feel like that's low, but I don't know. Dom said 2 ounces for 160 together or 160 a piece. She wants 2 for 160. Dom says, "Oh, I don't have them that cheap." Kenzie said, "That's what I thought. Can I give her your snap? What's the cheapest for 2?" Dom said, "That's like $1,200 a pound. I got 2 ounces I can do for 260 right now." Dom said, "Oh, ew, so like shitty weed?" He said, "Yeah, I got good weed for 2,000 plus." Kenzie said, "Is that the lowest for 2?" She's asking if it's hybrid indica or sativa. He said, "It's indica, LMAO." And then there's a redacted message. Kenzie said, "She wants it." Dom said, "Okay, bet." Kenzie said, "Can I give her your snap?" And then he sends Kenzie a screenshot of a message. Kenzie said, "What's that?" Kenzie said, "Give her that." Dom said, "Yeah." She said, "Okay." Dom said, "She sent Yulia my number." Kenzie said, "Want to come to the party?" He said, "Yeah, when is it?" He says, "We got reservations at 7:30. She says, "You might not be able to. Never mind. It's an Arab party, Omar's sister." Dom said, "Oh, that's fine. I don't really care to go anyway. About to record soon. I'ma send you some shit." Kenzie said, "Send it." He says, "I'm waiting because my hair is soaked, so I can't put on my headphones. I'll send you beat though." She says, "Don't sell Emma any weed, by the way." Or Livia. Dom said, "That's totally fine with me." "Why is that?" Kenzie says, "I don't know. She gave me attitude for no reason." Dom said, "Oh, okay, bet." Kenzie says, "When you want me to come?" 6:30. Be at your house. Dom says, "Reservations at 7:30, but we got to park." Dom says, "Depends if you want time beforehand. I'd say leave by 6:45." She said, "Okay, since check Snap." He said, "Snap?" She said, "Yes." Dom said, "Nothing on here." She said, I sent." Dom says, "Make sure to have your purse at 6:22 p.m. and anything you need for the night." She said, "I have it." Dom said, "I'm gonna put a couple things in there." Kenzie says, "I'm gonna come." He says, "What would you want to smoke?" She said, "I don't know." Dom says, "There is no spa here, so we should just go to Tower City, then go home." I forgot what else we had in mind. Kenzie says, "Sure." She kept she kept the rugs on her because she liked it, made her feel important. Yeah, she was definitely doing a lot of his selling. "Carry me, Dom. I don't want to walk. I'm a princess," says Evie. Uh, oh, hey, Brenda. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a minute. Nobody would have talked to her without rugs. Okay, let's continue. Dom says, "I'm so effing mad." The next day on 11/15 at 7:32. He says, "I'm so effing mad. I asked my dad to look for my minutes card yesterday and he looked for 20 seconds and told me it wasn't there and then it was right on the effing table." Kenzie says, "WTF?" He says, "Mother effer making me effing loser and bread dude. I'm not gonna F with him anymore." Kenzie says, "I literally heard that convo. I just told my mom I'm done with her." And then Dom sends a screenshot. Dom said, "Why is that?" Kenzie said, "She's just getting defensive." Dom said, "But yeah, effing dumbass." Kenzie says, "Like if she should just be like, OMG, why did he do that? I'll fix it. It would be cool." But she gets all defensive. And then Kenzie sends a screenshot. Dom says, "Your car wasn't messed up at all, though, babe." She says, "I don't give an F. It still happens. He still did that and didn't fix it." Dom said, "I'll make sure I park all the way up if there's next to it. I'm about to just rip a bong. My dad got me salty." Kenzie says, "I should have also smoked. I should have also smoked because I'm annoyed AF and I just want to leave." Dom says, "Now I got to take my mom's car right now and get this done ASAP. I'm pissed. If I missed some money, I'm gonna be mad. What classes do you have right now?" She says, "Slavic, then Slove, then math." He says, "What do you mean, then nothing? Go smoke when you have nothing." Kenzie says, "I don't have a second." He says, "Oh, just dip and come here. I'll give you a dab or something." She said, "Should I go to math today?" He said, "I don't care, babe. I don't know, babe. That's up to you. You're already at school. You might as well." And then Dom sends a screenshot of something. Kenzie says, "Why is he all mad? LMAO." Okay, sorry, I was drinking water. Um, Kenzie says, "Why he all mad? LMAO." Dom says, "'Cause I dogged him and said he ain't got no paper." I said, "My bad," and he was still salty, but for real though, it was right on the table. Kenzie said, "He's just being slow. Dom says, "He acts like I don't make 20 times the money he does." Dom says, tick I'm on the way to make a quarter ticket this year." F for real. Dom says, "I just dogged him, told him football was more important than my shit because he tried to say, 'Wow, your money is more important than your family.'" Dom sends another screenshot. He says, "What a B. Read that shit." Kenzie says, "WTF, it's 9:36 p.m." And then Dom is still sending screenshots. She says, "Just stop texting him." Dom says, "Had to just prove that he has no points. He could get up 3 feet from the couch and look, LMAO. What are you doing? I have no car and nothing to do." Oh, wait, it's 9:43 a.m. Did I say that? He says, "What are you doing? I have no car and nothing to do at 4:08 p.m." He says, "Well, I have things to do, but I don't have a car to do them." Kenzie says, "You can take mine." He says, "Okay, bet. Mine's gonna be done Wednesday." She said, "Playboy Cardi tickets are now $93. See?" He says, "Is that cheaper than what we got him for? Also, you're gonna have to swoop." She says, "Oh, babe, can you get me Shinto and drop it off at 5:09 PM?" She says, "I will be so happy." Dom says, "Can I do it when I'm done with my cells?" Kenzie says, "How long?" Dom says, "Like an hour-ish. Can you take your mom's car and get it?" And then he says at 6:22, "Still want Shintos?" She says, "My dad got it." He says, "Okay, bet." He says, "Just got home. I'll be back soon." Kenzie says, "We have issues." The next morning at 11:05 AM. He says, "Why?" She says, "I just got pulled over in media." She says, "You have till the end of the day to find the blunt or we have issues." He says, "Why? What happened?" Kenzie says, "And you're paying for my diversion program I have to go to." Dom says, "They found it or no?" Kenzie says, "No." Dom said, "What happened? Let me know." Kenzie says, "They didn't find shit. I have a video." Dom says, "Did they I have a video?" Oh, I think she meant a bong. I have a bong, but it says video. He says, "Did they search your car?" She said, "Yes." Dom said, "Are they saying you have to do diversion?" Kenzie says, "I have 5 cops around my car." Yes. Dom says, "Or trying to charge." Kenzie says, "Do you not read?" Dom says, "Say I smoke hemp." She says, "N word." I said, "You have a medical ID." Dom says, "What did they charge you with?" Kenzie says, "Speeding." Oh, so she got pulled over for speeding and had a little bong in her car and was scared. Skater says, "Of course they searched the car. It smells like a massive rug." She videotaped the cops. She had no chance with parents like hers. Ruth says, "Who does she think she is?" She got she got a speeding ticket. That was it. She got lucky. Okay, so she says speeding. Dom says, "Oh, okay, well you're fine then, babe. You only got in trouble for speeding." She says, "I know you didn't just say that." He says, "You're not going to get diversion." She said, "You have till the end of the day or we're done." He just said, "I have to go." Dumbass N-word. Do you not read? Slow AF. She's so degrading. Dom says, "Kenzie, they can't make you go if you're not getting charged." And then she sends an audio message. She said, "Stupid AF. Like, please observe this info." And he sends an audio back and says, "That's for speeding, not the weed. Nothing to do with me. There is no weed. They didn't find any. So you don't have to do shit for the weed. It's for the speeding." She said, "Cool, then we're done, I guess." So she sent him an audio message saying, "Oh, it's your fault. Like, you have to pay for this and you have to do this," because she was trying to blame it on the weed. But it's like, that's not what they didn't get you for that. They got you for speeding. And he just takes it. Yeah, she's a psycho. She says, "Cool, then we're done, I guess." Dom says, "Yeah, you're gonna blame it. Uh, yeah, you're gonna blame it all on me because they didn't find my blunt." The fact that Kenzie says, "The fact that you're so effing stupid that you're still not getting it, I hope you get better." Dom says, "I'll find the blunt." I said, "I'd find the blunt." Kenzie says, "Your slow ass isn't understanding that I'm not blaming it on you. I'm telling you, if you don't get this effing blunt out of my car by the end of today, then we're actually breaking up because if Kendra got in trouble for this, it would have been very serious, and same for me because it will be points on my effing record, dumbass. He says, yeah, I'll find the blunt. She says, I was also in Medina County, but you probably didn't read that because you don't read anything. Okay, you have until the end of the day to find it. Like, I'm dead ass serious. He says, why were you in there? She says, is that even a question? Is that question even effing important? Like, I know you didn't just ask me that. Wow. She says, like, if you don't stop, we will have issues. We already do have issues because you just got me in trouble. Dom didn't make you speed. You decided to do that. And clearly you have a problem with that because you sped the car into the wall at 100 miles per hour. So shut up, Kenzie. She says, we're gonna have issues because you just got me in trouble. He says, I didn't know you were speeding, babe. I'll find the blunt though. She says, it doesn't matter. They would have just let me go if it didn't reek like weed. Like while they were searching my effing car, I can literally smell whiffs of the weed while I was standing outside. Dom says, and I'll spray Ozium. She says, I'm home, so you have until the end of the day. No, you're going to find the blunt. He says, yeah, I said I would do that. And then I said I'd spray some Ozium. Dom says, at first, I thought you were trying to say they were giving you diversion because it smelled like weed. It's 5 cops. Couldn't find it though. I don't know how it's still in there. Like WTF. And then she sends a screenshot of the ticket. Dom says, it says you don't have to appear in court. Was you actually going 50 and a 35? Kenzie says, bro, I don't even know. Damn, are you effing stupid? Literally, I've told you 8 times that if I go to the diversion, I don't have to go to court and pay the ticket. And if I go to diversion, the cop looked through Kendra's pouch with all her cards and vapes in it and apparently didn't do shit either. Dom says, why would I be stupid? You should have just told them they can't search the car. You're allowed to do that. And Kendra doesn't have to prove her identity or let them search her at all. And then he sends a screenshot. Dom says, see right there, it says you don't have to appear in court, LOL, but I guess I'm too stupid to read a simple paper. Kenzie says, also need to keep Kendra what to say to her, right? Because she was kind of silly, much information. It was her first time getting pulled over. And Kenzie sends a picture of the ticket again. And then she says, okay, LOL. Dom says, I'm going to tell you what to do next time. He says, 1, don't answer any questions. 2, all you have to do is give them license and registration. That's it. 3, only words that should come out of your mouth after that is asserting your right for a lawyer. He says, Kendra is under the age of 18. She does not have to prove her identity or answer any questions either. Kenzie says, okay, babe, just dropped her off. Have you ever seen Little Shop of Horrors? Dom says, I don't think so. Do you want to watch it tonight? She said, yes. He said, bet. She said, stay off TikTok and close the app and you will get more views. He says, bet. She said, it's about to blow up. Dom says, that shit funny AF. It should. Kenzie says, I need a battery. It's 11/16, November 16th at 6:53 p.m. He says, I got you. She said, because I have a tan on now. She said, Lucas sounds good. Dom says, I might be down. They probably won't be busy either. Kenzie says, I have a spray tan. I look really bad. We might just need to get takeout. Dom says, let's go tomorrow when you look good. It's too far for takeout. She said, okay, bet. He said, does that sound good? She says, Nugum, yes. He says, bet. She says, I work at 6:59 p.m. He says, you want to get takeout somewhere else tonight? She said, "We have to go after work at 9:15. Sure, where?" He said, "It probably closes at 10, babe." She said, "Oh." Dom said, "Let me check." She said, "Rosewood." Dom said, "Yeah, Monday to Thursday, 10. Tonight or tomorrow. Let me know." Kenzie says, "Takeout and a little shop of horrors tonight." From where? Dom says, "I thought you were saying Rosewood takeout." I could do Chinese takeout for real. She says, "Chinese from where?" Because I'm down for that too, or Shinto. She says, "I'm driving Luliel home right now. I will be free, but I'm going to get myself hot chocolate probably. Actually, let's just get that before we watch the movie for when we get food. Pick up the food before you come over. I will get the movie set up." Dom says, "Okay, what food? Shinto?" Kenzie says, "Or wild fusion. If you get Shinto, I want a salad, no dressing, white rice, hibachi, and vegetables. Low key hibachi soup too." Dom says, "I was thinking wild fusion, but I'll eat either. Let me know what you want if I'm ordering." She said, "Pick whatever. Probably Shinto. Easy." He says, "Okay, bet." She says, "Let me know when." She says, I'm home. Come soon. Get the food, then come." Dom says, "I'll order it in a sec." She said, "Okay, yay," at 7:37 p.m. Dom says, "What time you be home?" Kenzie says, "I'm home." He says, "Oh, okay." He says, "Yo, I just realized I don't have my car." Kenzie said, "Babe, I'll come get you, but you have to go get it and then come back." He says, "Can you swoop me in a little?" She said, "I need tree also. Like, do I have to come get your food with you so you can just go get it?" Dom says, "Well, it would be easiest you can just swoop when it's about to be ready and we can get it real quick. I'll give you some stuff." She said, "Okay, bet. I forgot I can't hit the bong." Dom says, "Oh, yeah. Want me to bring you more edibles?" She says, "I need tree tomorrow." And no, just cart. He says, "I'll give you tree too." She says, "Battery. I mean, how long till the food?" He says, "Let me order it right now. So soup, salad, white rice, vegetables." She said, "Salad, no dressing." He says, "Got you." She says, "Or calamari, but up to you." He says, "Soup and salad will come with mine, I think." She said, "Bet. Do that then." He said, "Okay, it's done." He said, 25 minutes. She said, "When do I come? You need to drive." She said, I'm sleepy." Dom, Dom, question mark, question mark. Dom, he says, "Leave in a minute." She said, "Let me know when." He says, "Right now." She says, "I'm here at 8:13 p.m. She says, "Here." She says, "You better be here. I'm blocking." Dom, come out. Like, question mark, question mark. Both trying to back up. "Bro, I swear to God, I need tree." He says, "Stop and grab it. I still don't have my car." She says, "WTF? Answer now." He says, "I'm home. My bad, was shaving. Just stop by." It's the 17th now at 1:44 p.m. She said, "Okay." She says, "Can you roll a little joint for me and Julia?" He says, "Yeah." She says, "Lulia, we're going to hell." He says, "I figured it's nice today too." Kenzie says, "Here, on the way home at 4:31. She says, "Let me know when you want to go to Lucas, the restaurant." He says, "I'm on the way to get my car. We can go when I'm back." Kenzie says, "When does it open?" Dom, babe. Dom says, "Dinner opens at 5. Kenzie says, "Are you sure?" Dom, he says, "Yeah, I'm positive. It opens at 4. It opens out at 4, dinner at 5. She says, "Look it up." Dom says, "It says open at 5, so I don't know. We won't be there till 6 anyways." She says, "How long?" Dom, "How long?" He says, "I'm on highway." She said, "Where?" He said, "Here." She said, "I'm coming at 5." 6:44 PM, and then it jumps to the 18th. She never says sorry either. No. Has she ever used the word please? No, and she does never say thank you. I've realized that too. I know. Okay, let's continue. She says, "Have you seen my purse anywhere?" On 11/18 at 1:57. He says, "I have no idea, to be honest." And then she sends a bunch of TikTok links. He says, "I need the banana ones." She says, "I know. There's a church that says you have the greatest chance around 4:03, but you should start to see a partial at like 2:15 to 5:48." Dom says, "Yeah, peak is like 3:45 till 4:20, I wanna say." She said, "So what time?" It's 10:17 PM. He says, "I'd wake up at like 3, would be lit. Where could we go see it best?" She says, "I don't know. I'm down." She says, "I'm about to go to sleep now and set my alarm for 2:50, 2:55." Dom says, "Okay, Imma do that too." She texts him at 2:55 AM. She says, "Are you up? Dom, you see it?" He says, "No, I'm walking around. I can't see it." She says, "I think I'm going to sleep and wake up at 4:45." She says, "Cloudy AF." He said, "Yeah, I'm sleeping." And then she sent a bunch of TikToks. What were they looking at, like a full moon or like a shooting star or something? Um, then at 9:43, she says, "What weed in the pre-roll?" He says, "What pre-roll?" And then she sends a screenshot of something. He says, "Oh, I wouldn't smoke that. That bud isn't bad, it's just pretty old." Kenzie said, "Oh, okay." Dom says, "If you want a pretty pre-roll with dabs on it, I'll make you one with the good bud I have now." And then he sends, it looks like, um, some messages, screenshots. Dom says, "Angelo said it was at 10." Kenzie says, "Bruh, stop." Dom sends another screenshot. She says, "WTF?" Dom says, "Can I go to the club with Sean and Angelo and a bunch of other plugs?" She says, "I don't know. Can I trust you?" He says, "Babe, you know me by now. It's gonna be hella plugs and we're renting hella sections and smoking woods and shit. They doing no girls. But they're cool with barley or owners. If I get cool with all of them, me and you can just go by ourselves." She said, "What club?" He says, "Barley." She says, "Well, there's obviously going to be girls. There is a club. There's no way I can come. Like, literally get off at 7." Dom says, "They don't want girls sliding and it would be harder for me to get in. They told me before I had to ride party bus with them if I wanted to get in, but Imma come with Angelo and Sean because 'cause they're going later. It's the one dude's birthday." Kenzie says, "Bruh, how am I supposed to believe there's no girls?" Dom said, "There's gonna be girls at the club, but not in our section. We have 4 sections. If everyone else brought their girl, I would bring you." She says, "Bruh, I know girls are gonna be there." He says, "Babe, why would I not include you?" She says, "I don't know." He says, "You don't have to worry about other girls." She says, "Fine, I'll trust you." He says, "Yay." He says, "Love you, babe. I'll talk to you when I dip." She says, "I don't know. I'm sus." He says, "I'll be fine. I'll show you." She said, "It's not hard to hide what you're doing." Dom says, "What would I be doing at the club? It's not like my house is close. Where can I go cheat?" Okay, well, you don't need to cheat to be in a house, just saying. But you guys, for those of you that know, this is gonna cause a fight. We already know it's coming. We already know. Dom can't go to the bar because there are girls at the bar. Dom can't walk to the mailbox because there's a female neighbor and he's gonna cheat with the neighbor. So he can't go get the mail. That's basically what it's at this point. He can't even look when he's making like a right turn while he's driving because the person in the car might be a female. Insecure little hating Satan. I know, Natasha. I know. Um, Kenzie's like, please don't even look at your mom because it's a female. Yuck. I swear she would do something like that. Right? Has to walk around with his eyes closed. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. He says, "What would I be doing at the club? Where can I go cheat?" She says, "Toph is texting me." She says, "I don't know. It can happen anywhere." She said, "Popeyes." He's gonna cheat at Popeyes. Dom says, "What's he texting?" He says, "What about Popeyes?" She said, "I want you to get it for me." Oh, okay. Um, and then she sends a screenshot of a message. He says, "Babe." She says, "Or Shinto." Dom says, "Can you DoorDash? I'll pay." She says, "I'm off at 7." He says, "I need to run places. Can you just grab Shinto on the way?" Okay, that was at 6:02 yeah, 6:02 PM, and then it jumps to 7:09 AM. She says, "Nice pics. I thought you were gonna show me." He says, "Oh, I didn't know, like, like, it wasn't even that fun. I would have rather brought you." She said, "Who was there? I know you took videos. You had 4 sections." Dom said, "I didn't. I was about to take a video of the cake." He says, "Wanna get chicken minis?" She says, "I'm working. Get them. I get off at 12, 11." He says, "Okay, Imma drive there in a sec. How many do you want?" She said, "Bruh, no, not right now." He said, "What? I'm starving. Breakfast is about to end." He says, "I just got him. By the time I get back, you'll be off work anyways." She said, "Def not." He said, "Well, I'm here with them." She said, "My mom got me some." Dom says, "Oh, my bad. I didn't know 15 minutes would make such a difference." He says, "What are you doing today?" "Blair wanna go to a college party tonight. You wanna come?" She says, "Sure," and I'm laying down. He said, "Bet." He's trying to go out, so I don't know if it's the move. He's trying to go with Cam and Drew, LOL. Kenzie says, LMAO, what? I'm down. He says, okay. It's like a 3 hours away and we'd have to spend the night out there. Kenzie's, oh, Kenzie says, I know what the OU is. Dom says, the TikTok kids. Kenzie said, why them? Dom said, he's cool with them because of Astro World Hoodie Kid. Kenzie says, bruh. Well, I called off work and it would be fun to stay there. My dad went to OU and famous people always there. Dom said, he hitting Jake, seeing if he's down. Let me get a drink. How long does she keep this job? This is Duncan, right? Oh yeah, she said thank you one day. Great, that's nice. Out of all the days we've gone through. He says he hitting Jake to see if he's down. Kenzie said, Lulia, for real. Dom says question mark. Kenzie said FaceTime. Can Lulia and Kaylee come or no? Dom said phone died at 2:12 p.m. Then she sends a screenshot of something. That was at 5:26 PM, and then it's the next day, 9:35 AM. He says, "You wanna watch a movie?" She said, "It's literally closed. I'm annoyed." He says, "I'm sorry, babe." She says, "I'm mad. It literally said open till 9. Me and my mom checked." Dom said, "Why would it be closed though? And it did say opened online. Do they close for the winter?" Kenzie says, "I don't even know. Can you run Hope out a cart?" Dom said, "Is she here?" Kenzie said, "Never mind." And then she sends him links to Skims dresses. She's obsessed with those dresses. That's like all she thinks about. Um, she says, "How much is a quarter?" Dom says, 70, 7 grams. She says, "Okay, bet. What are you doing?" He says, "Just got out of the shower." He says, "Do you have Polaris this week?" She said, "No." Or school. "Tomorrow I have school though." He said, "Bet, that's lit." She said, "I know." Dom says, "I want to go to Florida. This cold weather, not it." Kenzie says, "I'm down." Dom says, "But this, like when I make all my money is holidays. Might just have to wait till after the holidays." Kenzie says, "Either way." He says, "Everything will be cheap AF then." She says, "We can go in January." Dom says, "Yeah, that would probably be the move. Unless we had a cheap flight and we were just going to Blair's." He says, "Then I'd go there for sure." Kenzie says, "I'm down." She says, "What are you doing today? You want to do something?" Dom says, I gotta link with Jared at some point." She says, "What are you trying to do?" Dom says, "I don't know. We could go to the steak movie theater later." Now it's the next day at 11:56 AM. She says, "Okay, I'm down." He says, "Bet, that's probably the move." She said, "What time and what movie?" He said, "I don't know, let's check." "What's the movie theater called? Do you know?" She says, "I don't. Look up steak movie theater, Beechwood." He says, "Okay, bet." She says, "What times and movie?" He sends a link for the movie. He says, "Not much. Have classic nights on 24 and 27 though, which is pretty dope." Kenzie says, "So should we go or no?" He says, "Probably not. Let's see what they're playing retro night." She said, "Okay, bet." She says, "Do you want to bring over the sticks for the cake pops and the edible stuff? You could bring multiple chocolates if you want." She says, Dom says, "Yeah, y'all ready?" Kenzie says, "Yes." He says, "Okay, I'll come soon. You can come grab them. You don't gotta cook any of my shit either. It's cool." Kenzie says, "You're not getting edibles then. The F? Thanks for ruining this. Now I can't make them." Dom says, "Okay, fine. I'll run the straws over." Kenzie says, "If you don't bring them, I will actually be so mad at you." He said, "It's just straws. Don't give me attitude on the phone, though." She said, "It's not." He said, "What do you want me to bring straws and what else?" She said, "OMFG. Bring the cake pop things that are white." Dom says, "Okay, bet. That's what I'm bringing. Anything else you need from me?" She said, "Weed if you want. You don't have to, though. It's just for me because I'm not smoking them out." Dom says, "Okay, for sure." She says, "Want to do steaks and a movie at home?" He says, "Yeah, we can do it later, though. I'm eating food right now." "Can you grab the steaks?" She says, "Yeah, for dinner. And I want a nap." He says, "Can you grab the steaks?" She says, "Did you not read, Dom?" He says, "What?" She says, "I want a nap. My throat hurts really bad." He says, "Damn, I'm tired. I just want a nap too, for real." She says, "Okay, then we can do that." He says, "I bet." She says, "You need to unadd Bryn on everything. We don't F with Bryn now. Look at her story." Dom says, "Let me see if I even have her on Snap." Kenzie says she posted a video of her Snap and the people she texts, and Hannah is on that. Dom says, "I don't even have her on Snap." Kenzie says, "So we don't like her." Dom says, "I don't like her anyways." Kenzie says, "Good." She says, What should I take if my throat hurts?" Dom says, edibles. Kenzie said, what one? How much? Dom says, how high do you want to get? She said, bong high. Dom says, how much did you eat last time? I forgot. She said, one piece of chocolate. She said, then another time, half of a gummy. Dom says, I ate an edible and cashed at like 7. I don't know what that is. He she's she says, "I didn't even get high, I was up till 10." Oh, crashed at 7. And then she says, "I didn't even get high, I was up till 10." He says, "That's weird, you ate 50 milligram gummy." She says, "Babe, what are you doing?" At 11:55 AM on the 23rd. He says, "Looking for new cryptos to invest. What about you?" She says, "Me and Lulia are going out to eat." He says, "Lit." She says, "I want to go to Angelo's. Me, you, Lulia." He says, "When?" She says, "I don't know." Dom says, "If you want to go in a little, I'm down. I got a shower. If not, it's cool." Kenzie says, "We're going to watch a movie. Maybe we can go after." Dom says, "Yeah, that works." She says, "Bet." He says, "What time are we going? This kid wants a cart at 3." Kenzie says, "Me and Lilia are going to nap till 2:25." Dom says, "Did you see a movie yet, or are you doing that after you nap?" And that's at 1:53 PM. And then he says at 4:17 PM, "What are you doing?" She says, "Just woke up." Dom says, "I'm running a play. You want to still get pizza?" She said, "Probably when Lulia's up." Dom says, "For sure. I got another play, so that works." She said, "Unadd Phil on Snap." Dom says, "I got you." She says, "When does Angelo's close?" Dom. He says, "I don't know, 10 to 11 maybe." She said, "Okay, wanna go?" He says, "Yeah, I got 2 cells. Can I hit it at least one of them?" She says, "Hurry." He says, "Okay, give me a sec to leave." And then they're playing checkers. You guys know how that is. Sometimes they play these games probably while they're waiting for pizza because it's 7:38 PM. And now they're playing Sea Battle. Sorry, guys, we just have to get through the parts where they play these games, these phone games. Sometimes it takes a minute to get through them too. Okay, so they're still playing Sea Battle. Okay. Now it's 8 o'clock and they're still playing Sea Battle. Mm, it's 8:04 and they're still playing. I've never played that Sea Battle. Okay, they're still playing. Jeez. How long are they gonna play for? Oh, this is annoying. Mm, okay, they're still playing more Sea Battle. What the helly? It's now 8:16 PM. I don't wanna, like, scroll because I don't wanna okay, there we go. She at 8 At 10 oh, it's the next day at 10:42 AM, she says, "What belts do you even like?" He says, "For any kind of belt or a certain brand?" She says, "Both." He says, "Want me to just send you pics?" She said, "Yes, like all belts." He says, "I got you. I sent you what belts I like already, so I'm not gonna send those, all right?" She said, "Do you want a darker belt or a lighter belt, like the colors?" Do you wear more light or dark jeans? Dom says, "It depends what belt for real and what I'm wearing it with. I wear mostly shit with black, so you can go off of that." Kenzie says, "So if I got you a belt, would you rather have one it matches with black better?" Dom says, "Yeah, wouldn't you think that would be best?" She said, so you don't want a silver belt or a white, dark gray or black? Dom, send. He says, dark gray maybe. And then he sends pictures of belts that he likes. He says, I F with the Dolce ones heavy. She said, okay, pick a top 3. I have an idea, but I want you to pick so it's the best one. Or I have a BB belt in mind. And then he sends more pictures of belts. She said, it can be a surprise or you can pick. 500 is too much. Anything under I can do. He says, I put hearts on my top 3. She says, OMG, the Gucci B one. He said, that one is so hard. Dolce one's harder though. She said, that's my number 1, but I also love the red cheetah. You would rather have that one than the BB? He says, honestly, if you're going to get me Gucci or BB, I'll get my Burberry. I'll get myself the Dolce ones, LMAO. She said, okay, do that. She said, I'll surprise you. She says, I'm still getting something else too. She says, I'm getting you something other than a belt. He says, bet. What Dolce one do I get? She said, red. Would you rather have Burberry belt or Gucci? Dom, he says, just get me the Burberry belt. She says, I got you something. He said, bet. He said, I have so much buildup, it's ridiculous. She said, for real? He said, I was scooping for so long, it was like pasty. Ew. He says, what are you wearing? She says, archived clothing, come over in a little. He says, okay. He says, still want to go to South Park Mall? She said, I don't know. They have nothing cute, and I don't feel like watching you shop for another 2 hours. I'm broke as F. He says, oh, okay. I'll remember that when you want, he says, I'll remember that when you want some of my time. She says, what? Like I'm sick and I just want to lay down. You don't have to get mad. It's hard for my ADHD or ADD, whatever it is. He said, it's okay, babe. She said, but be mad. He said, LOL. She says, what, that was at 4:16. First of all, where is she getting $500 for a belt? Sorry, I just like the live. My bad. Don't block me or put on D&D. Tia? Huh. I won't put you on D&D. Nova says, I don't know how Melly doesn't have her sore throat. After today, I read the Mark Sanchez affidavit. I read, what else did we read? Oh, that was it. I was acting like I read hella papers. It was just that. I thought I had read something else too, but I guess not. Hey, Becky, babe. Okay, so let's see. She says, what are you doing at 5:48 p.m.? She says, nug. He says, sale. He says, love you, baby, at 9:55 p.m. She says, love you, babe. The next morning at 10:30, he says, do you guys have a deep fryer? BLT was supposed to deep fry our turkey, but now him and my mom are fighting. Kenzie says, we don't. It's November 25th. He says, damn, are you coming over? She says, he says, yeah, when do you want me to come? She says, what size pants are you? He says, 31 waist. 30 waist is tight. I like 31 and 32, 34 length. She said, now, what waist? And he says the same thing he just said. He said, I'm going to be on the way in a sec. He says, you almost done. I don't F with anything here. Oh, wait. So then it jumps to the next day at 12:41 p.m. He says, I don't F with anything here. Kenzie said, yes. He says, I bet, where you at? She said, the room. He said, okay, I'm going. She said, where you at? He said, walking to Macy's. She said, babe. He said, what? She said, yeah. Where you at? He said, my phone died. I just went to the car. So they're at the mall. She said, thank God, because we're walking around Macy's yelling your name. Then he says, why is this my only featured photo? And it's a picture of her. She says, your little babe. He loves her message. She says, nuggy babe, still want to do dinner? He says, yeah, I want to do a little later. He says, "And wanna maybe go somewhere else? We do Lucas every time now. And Blair and Will wanna go to the strip bar later. I told them I had to ask you." She says, "What? What's a strip bar?" He said, "Strip club." She said, "Why? Why do you need to go there?" He said, "Bruh, I don't know. Will and Blair wanna go. Do you wanna come?" She said, "You say I can't be that for a living, and then you're gonna go give other girls money. If you wanna spend money so bad, you could buy me an LV, a Louis Vuitton." Oh, you guys remember when we were talking about the Snapchat stuff? How she was, like, sending, like, nudes and, whatever? So, he tells her she can't be a stripper, but she wants to be because she says, "You can't s you say I can't be that for a living, and then you're gonna go give other girls money." I don't know. That's weird. She says, "And yes, I do. I don't have a fake ID though." He says, "WTF, because you can't make a stripper a housewife. LMAO." Oh, here we go. "What?" says Jessica. No, I didn't read the Courtney Clenny. Oh, shoot. I had a live scheduled for, I think, like right now on Courtney Clenny. Oops. Sorry if anyone's over there. We're gonna have to reschedule that because I'm over here. I will definitely cover it, Jules. I promise. I'm obsessed with that case. I can't wait to cover the trial. Natasha says, "Oh, her only wish was to be a stripper, yet the pitiful thing is terrified to even shower in gel." Yo, she might be dancing on that pole in the prison, you know? I don't know. It's just my thought. He says, "You can make a stripper a housewife, LMAO. I don't care about getting a lap dance, LOL. Why would I ever want the mother of my kids to be a stripper?" Kenzie says, "Okay, good. How would I get in?" He says, "I think Will knows owner of the club. We could probably just get in. But I don't want to go to super ghetto one, so I'm ask where it is." He says, "You want me to buy you a lap dance?" She said, "Haha, stop. Let me know where." He says, "Hey, I thought you might want one. LOL." She says, "I don't know." She says, "Pulp." I don't know why she said that. He says, "Yeah, I don't care about a strip bar because I don't know if we'll get into the good one and I don't want to go to a ghetto one. So we should have drinks at my house or something." She says, "I don't really want to drink that much, babe." He says, "Can I sip with Blair?" She says, "If you want." He says, "I bet you want to sip too." She says, "I don't know. Maybe I might just fall asleep. I need food first if I do." He said, "Let me know what food you'd want. I just want to do something. My body is craving a little partying." She said, "I'm down." She said, "Insta." He said, "Should we have some people Uber?" She said, "Who?" He said, "All the homies." Kenzie says, "Want to go to Lucas?" Oh, wait, that was on the 26th. And then it goes to the next day at 10:43. She said, "Want to go to Lucas?" He said, yeah, when I literally just woke up." Oh, they don't serve till 5 anyways. She said, "Okay, yay." That was at 11:07 a.m. And then at 5:31, she says, "Are you home?" He says, "Yeah, what's up?" She says, "Road's effed." He says, "Did you slide?" She said, "No." He said, "Okay, good." She said, "I just seen hella ambulances and police, black ice." Dom says, "Yeah, be careful. Def hella icy." She said, "My mom is driving." Dom says, "Bet. Want to just go to Lucas or somewhere fire later?" She said, "Yes, I'm off at 9." He says, "Damn." He says, "Damn, it's Sunday. I don't know if nothing gonna be open then for real." It's 10:50 a.m. He says, "When do you go in?" She said, 6. He said, "We could go somewhere before. If not, let's just save it for another day." She says, "I have a massage at 3 o'clock." He says, "Yeah, that's too much to work around." She said, "Okay." She says, "What are you doing?" He says, "At my house, pissed off." She says, "Me too. My mom just made me so mad. She's being annoying." Dom says, "My mom just put the disgusting moon pods in my old room. I don't want those hairy, disgusting things on my bed." Kenzie says, "Bruh, no, she didn't. WTF." He says, "Yeah, like WTF." Kenzie says, "That's actually effed." Dom says, "Yeah, like I know my old room is messy, but don't trash it." Kenzie said, nah, those pads are nasty AF. I'd be mad too. Dom says, yeah, like we couldn't even sit on the couch because of them. Kenzie says, yeah, I don't know why she got those, to be honest. You could, you would never use that. Dom says, I can't even be mad about that. She was just trying to get a present, but like, yeah, for real, it would never fit in my room. And I don't know why she would ever think I'd want all three covered in hair on my bed. Kenzie says, I feel bad. Sorry, babe. Dom says, now I'm cleaning my old room. LMAO. Want to come over and smoke? She says, probably not. I need to eat. I just tried to eat at Goldie's because Jennifer's was packed and literally the waffle tasted like pure effing shit. Like I was in shock. Shit tasted like it was deep fried in Medina trailer. Dom says, what the F? Goldie's is usually good. Kenzie says, so I still haven't ate. It was so ass. Dom says, do you have any fruit at your house? Any fruit at your house? I just ate an apple. She said, probably not. You know how my house is. The only thing I can snack on is those salt and vinegar chips. Like, ew. Dom says, we have apples and grapes here if you want. She says, let me just fill up on apple and grapes. That's such a good idea, Dom. Like, I actually want food, Dom, not fruit. Dom said, that's what I did. There's only like 4 food groups, babe, and fruit is the main one. Kenzie says, okay. He said, is it going to be locked at 8:15 p.m.? He says, I'm on the way. She said, okay, bet. She says, hello? He said, my phone died. He said, I was there. You didn't answer. She said, WTF, why didn't you come through the drive and say open door? You should have. I was cleaning. He said, like, she said, like my TikTok. Dom said, oh, I called you twice. I thought you'd answer. She said, I have no bud. He said, stop by after work or I'll come over in a little. Tell your mom everyone loves her cake thing. Kenzie says, OMG, for real? Dom says, yeah, my mom and Chris have been eating it every day. LOL. And then she said, Dom says, oh no, Kenzie says, you're the one who, okay, wait. So let's go back. So he says, everyone's been eating it every day. That was at 9:18 p.m. And then there's redacted messages. And then it jumps to the next day. Wait, let me make sure. Yeah, it jumps to the next day. At 6:55 a.m. He says, you're the one who was mean as F the whole phone call. That's your fault. That's what Kenzie said. So they were talking on the phone and got into a fight. He says, haha, LOL. I wouldn't keep it up. You're on thin ice. She says, I don't care. He says, bye, Felicia. Kenzie says, I called you to ask you for help and you were just a dickhead. Not sure what that has to do with ice. Maybe you should get your own lines. He emphasized, by Felicia. She said, okay, buddy. He says, like, what do I even get out of this? Now I'm just up 2. She says, what the F are you talking about? What do you get out of what? The F? Not sure why you're being an effing weirdo, but effing stop before there's issues. Dom says, I don't even care at this point. She says, cool, then break up with me. He says, maybe we should have a talk. She said, nah, dump me right now. LMAO. Like, you're a man, like, with your man, period ass, the F. Like, I'll just return your Christmas gift right now if that's how you're going to be. Figure it out before I go to school. So now. He says, nah, I'm just done getting treated like shit when I do everything for you. She says, I don't treat you like shit, LMAO, but okay. He says, I don't want to deal with this right now. She says, I don't care. I do. Figure it out now. He says, figure what out? She says, if you want to have that talk. It's 7:16 a.m., by the way. She says, figure it out before I leave for school. He said, have a talk in person. She said, nah. He says, about what? Breaking up? She said, I mean, clearly that's what you want. He says, you want me to break up with you? Kenzie says, that's what you've been pushing all morning, so make up your mind. Dom says, we better talk in person. Kenzie says, it's not happening. Dom says, what? Isn't? Kenzie says, you can break up with me on the phone. It's not happening in person. Dom says, I'd rather just have a talk. If that's what it is, I feel it's a decision for both of us. Kenzie says, I'd rather just figure this out right now before I go to school. Cool, then let's do it, if that's what you want. Dom says, Kenzie, that's clearly not what I want. I just want to be happy. And if you don't want to be happy with me, then yeah, we'd have to break up. But I'd assume you do, so we don't break up. Kenzie says, you are the one trying to break up. Figure this out right now. Right now. You have 2 minutes. He says, babe, you're the one trying to break up now. Kenzie said, now. Dom says, I didn't even bring it up. She's loving her messages. He says, yeah, said you're on thin ice. Kenzie loved the message he said where Dom said, maybe we should talk. Dom says, a talk isn't breaking up. Kenzie said, there's actually 4 messages where you said shit like that. When you say all of that before it is. Dom says, look, maybe let's just have a break from each other. She said, I don't do breaks and that won't help shit. Like, what is even the point of that? Dom says, I'm done with this conversation. She says, figure it out because now I can't go to school. Like, what the F is wrong with you? Dom says, why? Just go to school. So this is like the end of 2021. They were already doing bad. Remember, they kept breaking up too right before the party and the crash. So they were already in a really shitty, dark situation and position by the time she decided to unalive him. They break up as much as he goes to the bathroom. That's hilarious, Jessica, because he's always in the bathroom. Okay, so he says, just go to school. She says, I'm not going till this is figured out. I don't get anything out of this. She says, huh? She said, is this because you're not getting sex? Like the F? Wow. So they really weren't having sex. Huh. I'm not surprised, but interesting. She said, weird AF. Dom says, Kenzie, I never break up with you over a text. She said, okay, do it because I would never let it happen in person. Dom says, and if we're going to break up, and if I was going to break up with you, I would let you know beforehand and let you try to fix the problem before breaking up with you. She says, then why the F are we having this combo? Like you literally, like you really just made a pointless combo. He says, you're the one that keeps talking. She said, like, God damn. He says, okay, you good to go to school now? She says, to be honest, I'm probably just not going now. Thanks, Dom. He says, bruh, just go to school. She says, now why the F would I answer that FaceTime? So he tried to FaceTime her. He said, I just wanted to see what was up. And he's sending screenshots. He says, I feel bad now. Talk to me. Whatever, I guess. And then she said at 8:03, appreciated. And then he says, question mark? Okay, I guess. She says, I appreciate you for feeling bad. Dom says, come over. She says, I can't and I don't want to drive. I'm probably just going to go to bed because I'm not going to school now. Dom says, you want me to come over? She says, if you don't want to, don't come. If you're just going to argue with me though. She says, okay. He says, I'm not coming over to argue. He says, on the way. He says, you taking a shit? She said, yes. LOL. He said, LOL, that's why you were being weird. She said, LOL. He said, little dirty booty ass. Ew. Little dirty booty ass. You guys know I'm not going to let that one go now. You guys already know me too well. I feel like at this point, we're all in a relationship with each other. We've been here for very too long. This is part 29 or 30 or I don't know, something. Jessica's like, no. Natasha, Natasha with the throwing up face. I'm sorry. They're not. That's not sexy, by the way. Kenzie says, can you pack a bong for me and Kendra when we drop them off? Because we have to leave. She says, right away. He says, yeah, I'm at my house. She said, bet. Can I have a car and Barry car or what? Can I have a car and a berry yet? Me and Lilia want to go to a movie. Dom? WTF? Dom? He says, I was showering. You should have just pulled up. She said, I'ma come. She said, "You can come to the movie with us if you really want to. It's 2 hours long, though." He says, "What movie?" "I'll probably just do plays for real." She said, "House of Gucci." He said, "What? That sounds kind of cool." She said, "Babe," the next day at 10:20 a.m., "Babe, can you pay for my lashes? I'm really scared it's not going to work out. It's 165, and if my lashes get all irritated again, it's just going to be a waste of money or some shit. I'm so nervous." He said, "So you want to waste my money?" She said, "Yes. I also don't have that much right now." Ew. If someone was talking to me like this, well, that would not happen. But to what, like, she's like, "Yeah, I'll waste your money." Mallory, I know. I hate that he just gave in to her. Remember yesterday, she did the same thing. She's like, "Can you pay for my lashes? I'm broke." Bitch, don't buy them then if you broke. His rug money. Sorry, I get a little mad sometimes. Anyways, she said, "Yes, I also don't have that much right now." He says, "I'll pay for them. Just don't get them right now. I just wait. Your eyes were already irritated after your facial." She says, "No, babe, I need to get them for the concert. We're getting them today." She says, "Babe, Morgan is asking me for tree also." He said, "When is the concert?" She said, "The second." He said, "Your eyes are going to be messed up for the concert." She says, "No, they aren't. She's using different glue." He says, "Are you sure?" She said, 1000% sure. Dom said, "Because I feel like your eyelashes are thinner already." Dom, that's what Dom said. And then she says, "She ordered new glue just for me." She said, "The F? What do you mean?" He says, "I feel like your eyelashes are thinner already." She said, "My eyelashes were like 50 times worse when I was wearing fake eyelashes, and they are not thinner. My eyes are swollen, so they're pushed down." He says, "I don't think you need any eyelashes, but you do you." She says, "Love you, babe. I really like having them." He says, "I know, but your eyes have gotten effed the last couple of times. If it don't work out, you're going to be pressed to get them off before Cardi, too." And then he says, "What would you want for Christmas as your main gift? Like a bag, purse, a jacket, coat, or like shoes?" She says, "Purse and clothes. Surprise me." "I don't know." "Or shoes. I don't care." He says, "Well, I knew one of the three. LOL." She says, "What other stuff do you want for Christmas?" He says, "I need good hoodies. Depends your budget, though." She said, "What are some brands you like?" She said, Dom says, "What you want as your main gift then? Because I can get you like all three." She said, "Like a purse, maybe. I don't know." He says, "Polo, I'll get that. I was trying to get some CDG hoodies, but those are like 300. Armani Exchange might have cheaper, nice hoodies with some Versace jeans. What time you want to go to Noble's?" She says, "I don't care. Do you have Aquaphor?" He says, "Aquaphor, what?" She says, "The lotion." He says, "No, none." She says, "For real?" She says, "I seen it at your house before. You put it on your dick." She said, "Oh, okay." Dom says, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I got some in my old room probably. Why, what's up?" She said, "I need it for my eyes." He said, "I got you. Want to go to Noble's right now?" She said, "Probably not, to be honest. I'm about to eat and I have to be on the way to my lash appointment by 4:30. Dom said, "Literally, it's closed." She said, "WTF?" Dom said, "Right? It's closed for a couple days." She said, "Do you want to make fillets?" He said, "Yeah, can you grab them though? I'm doing schoolwork right now." "Do you know anyone that would do English for money? It's due in like 2 weeks." Kenzie says, "Yes." He says, "I'm on the phone with Angelo." She said, "I'll post." He says, "I have someone, I think." Kenzie says, "I have steak." Dom says, "Bet, do you want me to come cook?" Dom says, "Make sure they left out and not in the fridge if you want me to cook them soon." She says, "They're out." She says, "I'm home." Dom says, "Sean is stopping by real quick, then I'll be over to make them." She says, "Yay. Where? Where you at?" He said, "I'm coming." Okay, we're ending there. We just did it. We just got through the November. I thought I was gonna be able to get through December tonight, but like, holy balls. We're going on 4 hours of this live. Okay, we're gonna have to finish November tomorrow. I mean, December tomorrow. Conjunctivitis for Xmas. Dom likes cooking steak. I know. Pink eye, stink eye, says the uploader. Stop it. Phoenix says she got fired from a smoothie place because the customer complained she had poop under her nails and remember her booty was hanging out. What do y'all think? She never smiles with her teeth because of all the cavities? No, it's because she's having an allergic reaction to those lashes. That happened to me. And she thinks that changing the glue is gonna help, and it doesn't. Your eyes become, like, irritated to it. No, that lash lady did not. Every single thing she took for granted was taken away from her. Dude, she messed up big time. Like, Dom was good to her. He was buying her lashes, buying her stuff. He wasn't so good to her in 2020. In 2021, he kinda grew up and started treating her better, and then she gets worse and then unalives him. Yeah, I know. Constant puss eyes from not cleaning her nasty fake lashes. Augie, you're hilarious. Anyways, okay, we're gonna end there. Tomorrow, we'll do December, and then we'll start 2022. Here we go. Here we go. I can't wait. Yeah, everyone hit the like button. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't gamble with something that close to my eyes. I'll stick to mascara. Facts. Thanks everyone for being here. Make sure you tap that like button on the way out. I would stay and finish this month, but I have to edit. So, and who knows how long it'll take. These are really long. Um, Olivia says, bye, Melly. I'm going to rewatch. I've been busy, only got bits and pieces. Okay, thanks, Olivia, for rewatching. Thanks, Melly. Slay all day. Your hustler, baby. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shout out to all my mods. Thanks to all the babelets for being here. Type, type, tap that look, tap that like button and wait, hype it up too. Please, please, please. It really helps. Thank you for your service, Melly. I am here to serve you, all of you, every day. Thanks, Melly and mods. Yeah, thank you. 3 kissies for you guys. Tap that like button like you would tap Kenzie. Just kidding. Melly getting pushed. Now I can't talk. I've been freaking reading all day. Same here. Yeah, I know. Okay. I appreciate you guys for being here. I will see you guys tomorrow night. I won't be live early tomorrow, but I will be live later in the day and in the evening. Thank you, Augie, for being here. All right. Shout out to all of you. I don't know when yet. I'll post and I'll reschedule the 𝐼𝐸 live that I had scheduled right now. Oh, we might have to do that tomorrow. I'm stuck. We'll have to do, I know we have Ellen Greenberg case deep dive part 1. We're starting that, which is scheduled right now. And then we have 𝐼𝐸 live. So I'll have to fit that in and we'll finish December text messages. And then I think I want to start 2022 on its separate live. So I might do December text messages with all of the new recent phone calls. What do you guys think about that? I think that would be fun because I think there's like 12 phone calls I haven't heard. So maybe we can do that and then we'll start 22 on a brand new live. And I do have the text messages with her friends. I was going to tell you guys because I know I said um I have, let me pull them up. Didn't I read some? I did. I think I read the ones with Rosie. I know I have the text messages from Rosie and Grace, and I know I read some when I read the, sorry, I'm pulling it up on my other screen. When I read some of, I think maybe it was the investigative report, but I have, ugh, whatever, dude. Oh, okay, there we go. Um, Let me pull up what I have. Oh, whatever. I can't pull it up. Oh, there we go. Um, yeah, I think I did already read some. Yeah, I have some with Rosie, and I do have some with Grace too. Text messages. So I'll go through them tonight and see if they're any good and we can read those together on a live. So I do have some with her friends. Anyways, okay. Thank you guys. Tia says, I'm looking forward. Tia, and thank you again for the super chat. I appreciate you, Babelet. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to Courtney Clenny too. I'm going to binge Melly's previous videos on her. Yes, I have playlists made, but I also have a lot of cases in between other lives that I haven't made playlists for. So I'm going through them. So just please make sure you check out everything on the channel. It's all pretty fun. Just saw great show, Melly. Thanks, Glenda. And sorry for the tech issues that we were having at the beginning. Appreciate you guys for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye.